cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Black and white. Oh, oh, oh. It's black and white. Black and white, just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. Black and white.
Good evening, good morning, or good afternoon from wherever you are around the world, and welcome to this second round of the Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship. Round 2 coming to you here from Alton in the Virginia state. This is the Virginia International Raceway. on the southern border of Virginia State, just a stone's throw away from the North Carolina State border. The Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship in its second round out of 8, and we'll run through the season calendar in just a few moments' time. Last week we were at Hockenheim for a thrilling opening round of the season. It all comes to here, over the pond to America for this second round of the season. Today's track, Virginia International Raceway, 3.2 miles, 5.2 kilometers, and the track is largely unchanged since its opening in 1957, all bar one element of this circuit. The famous oak tree on the Oak Tree Bend at the most southern point of the track was the most famous feature of this track, sadly taken down due to damage from weather, I do believe, but its legacy lives on in iRacing as we'll see it in all its form and glory today. Today in the commentary booth it's myself, Alex Everitt, and alongside me is Ed May. Good afternoon or good evening, Ed.
Yes, good afternoon indeed, Alex. It's great to be here at Virginia International Raceway for what is the second round of the Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship. We do come off the back of a brilliant opening round at Hockenheim, the first race of a new season. There are plenty of thrills and plenty of spills as well. Don't forget, that was a race which was dominated really by Ibola Laval, but well, wasn't the whole way through. And I believe you have the championship standings, provisionally at least. You can run us through, Alex.
Absolutely. And just to mention about the races today before we get into the standings, we have two separate races today, both 1 hour long, and we are having the AM category race up first, as they're in qualifying at the moment. And we'll progress into the 1 hour race shortly, and then after that we'll go for a quick interval and we'll be back for the second race of the night, which will be the pro race. But in the AMs we'll go through the standings for them. It was James Ebram who took the win last week at Hockenheim to take the championship lead on 36 points. Christopher Stahl finished in second place, threatening James Ebram's lead all the way through the race, but couldn't quite make it in the end. But 34 points and a very healthy second in the championship for Christopher Stahl. And then third place in the championship is Christian Radat on 32 points. A very interesting race indeed for the AMs. A lot of different strategies we saw last week for the drivers. Let's see how they get on this week, as with two separate races, the pros in one race and the AMs in another race. Certainly do expect that some drivers will find it easier negotiating traffic. There'll be less traffic to negotiate with only 20 or more cars in the field. So it's certainly going to be a lot easier to follow the actual category battles in this race, won't it, Ed?
Yes, definitely, and we'll be able to really shine the spotlight on the AMs that we weren't really able to do last time out because the pro fighting was so intense. We're following at the moment on circuit Alexander Roggenbuck, currently 18th in qualifying. He pull out of the bag, and another driver as well out on the circuit, James Ebram, current championship leader after the first round. Obviously won the first race of the championship, not quite having the qualifying we were expecting from him, currently down in 15th place. That's going to be a big ask to get himself up through the field for Apex Tech Racing. Although he did confess that after the race at Hockenheim, he felt that Christian Radatz might have had the upper hand if it wasn't for the strategy. But of course, that's something that could play into the hands of drivers that are better on the fuel with these 1 hour races. Oh, James Ebram gets it all wrong there. I believe, was that going down through the roller coaster section there? That's actually coming out of the final corner. Gets definitely over the curb, loses car, and unfortunately that's going to be another poor lap time for James Ebram. And with 20 seconds to go in qualifying, not able to go around again, he's going to be starting in 15th place.
Yeah, not a great start for James Ebram, the championship leader, certainly. And it's been a bit of a juggle of the order that the championship standings dictate, really. Ebram towards the bottom, but we're seeing Stahl in third place, which is rather representative of what he did last week. Christian Radat, I didn't see him in the standings there, but without further ado, we'll go through the grid for the race coming up as Kevin Aby puts it on pole position. We've got a warm-up coming up first, but we'll try and run through the results in qualifying we just saw. So there we go. It was actually Philippe Riquelme who got it on pole position. One of the Chile drivers that we saw last week stormed the show, really, but this one of off-track racing. Theo Schlerer of Virtual Best Racing in second place in qualifying, with Christopher Stahl, as we mentioned, in third place. He is second in the championship. Justin Young in fourth place, Roy Mass in fifth place, Alvaro Fernandez in sixth, with Blancare in seventh place, Kevin Aby, should I say, in eighth place, with Carlos Ponce in ninth, Jacob Money in 10th position, Mark Winters in 11th. He is fourth in the championship, so not quite on par with what he would compare to last week, but we'll see how he gets on this week in the race. Gabriel Stork of Straight Avenue Esports in 12th, with Adam Proud in 13th. Daniel Nunez in 14th position, with James Ebram, the championship leader of Apex Tech Racing, in 15th with his teammate and series proprietor EJ Filner in 16th place. Michael Floos in 17th place, and privateer Alexander Rogenbuck in 18th position.
This is setting up for a really tasty fight, isn't it? Philippe Riquelme, like you mentioned, on pole position, and this is Felipe's first race this season. I can't remember seeing him out on track at Hockenheim, so we're going to be able to see what the Chilean driver can pull off here at Virginia. Plenty of other drivers as well getting in the mix. Keep your eyes open on Roy Mars. He was involved in plenty of action last time out in Hockenheim. I'm going to be hoping for a race where he maybe flies a little bit more under the radar, scores some good points, and is able to get his championship off to a sort of a better note in this second round. He's currently fifth in the championship though, so who knows, he might be able to put on a challenge in the later stages. Other drivers as well going through. Alvaro Fernandez Montes currently 9th in the standings for Iridium Motorsports, and we did see they have Alvaro as well actually at Hockenheim to make their way through that fast little S. They basically just take it straight, don't they? They kind of ignore the fact that the track's moving left and right, and they just straighten it up as much as they can.
Yes, and one of the big principles of driving, in any form of driving really, any form of racing, is if the car's going straight, it's probably going at its fastest, and the snake section, as we just saw just a few moments ago, it's going to be very difficult to keep a car side by side through there, if we see cars side by side through there, but a very fast, exciting section. As we come at the longest and fastest section of the track, back straight, and we'll peel off to the left to break uphill and over the crest into the roller coaster. It's a very, very tricky track, Virginia International Raceway. One of my favourites on iRacing, to be honest. I took one of my first league wins here many years ago, so it's got a very good place in my history in sim racing. But I'm not important today. It's all about these drivers. Riquelme in warm-up, not messing around. Quickest in qualifying, quickest in warm-up so far, Ed.
Yeah, as commentators, we're never important. All right, there's a reason why we sit in the comms box and not behind the wheel of these machines, because, quite frankly, at least in my case, I'm not good enough to be up with these guys. They're very, very capable. And while this is the AM Championship, such is the level of quality we have in this Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship, is that all of these drivers are very good in their own right. It's very difficult to consider these guys AMs, but I guess we have to, consider the level of driver in the Pro Division.
Absolutely. And it's described to me just before we started this series, a lot of these drivers are high up in the iRating ranking. iRating is basically a sort of point system you're given on iRacing. You see Montez take a big spin near the oak tree there, just about misses the wall. But yes, the iRating system on iRacing is basically a level of your ability on iRacing. The more races you do, the more races you do well, the higher iRating you get. And these drivers here, I'm told, are within the region of 8,000 to 6,000, which in iRacing terms is huge. But we're about to come out of warm-up and we'll go into the one and only AM race of the night, but the first race of the night.
Yes, absolutely. And this is going to be very entertaining, isn't it? Like you mentioned, Philippe Bricolme, pole position with Theo Schlereth alongside him in second. Christopher Stahl third with Justin Young alongside him, making up the second row of the grid in fourth place. Roy Mars fifth in the championship and fifth on the grid for stage one racing. 107 car has the 176 of Alvaro Fernandez alongside him in sixth place. Hans Blankart seventh with Kevin Aby eighth. And Carlos Ponce ninth and Jacob Money round out your top 10. Then Mark Winters 11th place with Gabriel Stork alongside him. Adam Proud 13th, Daniel Nunes 14th. James Ebram, championship leader, got a big job to do from 15th place and got series proprietor EJ Fjellner alongside him in 16th. Michael Floos is 17th for VfB Stuttgart. Alexander Roggenberg 18th. Andy Spicer 19th, and a pro driver somehow snuck in but not taking part, so we'll just count them from the orders. But Rodrigo Lizowski there has appeared but will not be taking part in this race. We'll be able to see him out on circuit and what he can manage in about an hour's time. But the focus now shifts to the AM drivers as they start their full pace lap as well, so plenty of time for the drivers to think about what they're going to do at the start of this race.
Yeah, plenty of time to warm up the tyres as well, though granted the LMP2s don't take very long to warm up the tyres. Usually the first lap is not great in these cars, but once they are warmed up, they do last a pretty long time. And something that's going to be a little bit different about today's races, when we're talking about tyres, is pit strategy. Last week we saw at least 3 pit stops from all or most drivers. This week we're probably only going to see 1 pit stop, so really there's only one strategy. And I'm going to presume that not many drivers will take on tyres. It will just be a splash and dash, which means that getting your pit lane markers absolutely perfect is critical. A bit like Formula 1, where it's a very short pit stop and costly hundredths, tenths of a second can cost your track position. That is certainly going to be the case today.
Yes, absolutely, Alex. But the main thing to worry about for these drivers is the fuel they're going to be using on this pace lap. They're essentially going to be using an extra maybe half a lap's worth of fuel, or a little bit more if they're not able to really save the fuel on this outlap. So the drivers could be at risk of taking 2 stops. Those drivers that have been able to save the fuel and look after them, they'll be in a very good spot, because running through the pit lane will cost you maybe something of the tune of, what, 15, 20 seconds, would you say, in a splash and dash situation?
About that, yeah. I would say you're fairly accurate with that. But yes, as you mentioned, 1 lap here, they do have engine map settings, so they can save fuel. They can run in a higher gear as well, which of course will help. But this, you know, we're probably going to have to we'll have to expect that drivers will need to take on about an extra lap of fuel just to be safe. Some drivers probably will, just in fear of running out of fuel, I suppose. But you know, we'll just have to see how they get on. I mean,
and you are flat out for quite a lot of the lap, aren't you? Going through the Snake and then coming out of Oak Tree, you're flat out all the way through, and then coming out of Hog Pen as well down the front straight, flat out up to the Horseshoe. Plenty of times for the drivers to use all of their fuel. And we saw, didn't we, that the pit stops tended to happen around about the half-hour mark last time at Hockenheim. Other drivers came in a little bit earlier. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to see many drivers actually make it. And the ones that can will be looking very good in this short 1 hour sprint as they make their way down through the roller coaster in this pace lap. Like you mentioned, tyres not really a concern. VIR can be tricky on the tyres with the tight twisting undulations, putting loads of load. However, I think the drivers will be more worried about the fuel section as we get ready to start off this race. The pace car is about to come in at any moment now. Alex, take us through the beginning of this second round of the LMP2 Championship, partnered with Apex Technologies.
Ed May and the pace car Peels off, and we're about to go here for round 2, the AM race, the first of 2 races of the night, and lights are go. We are away. Felipe Riquelme gets a very good start off the front straight here at Virginia International Raceway. A gaggle of cars going into turn 1, the horseshoe here, and there's a car off in the background. The green car, that looks like it's Gabriel Stork. No, it's someone else, but we'll figure that out very shortly. But a big incident at the start of this race. Cars recovering already at the back there, and it was Mark Winters, 4th in the championship. Mark Winters on the grass and collects another car. Once these cars go on the grass, it's uncontrollable. Now let's get a little replay of that just to check up on the front before we come away. And there's a spin. That is Christopher Stahl, 2nd in the championship, and there's a big pile up in the middle as well. Look at all those cars in the background there coming through the snake. It's a terrible start here at Virginia International Raceway.
Yeah, drivers really losing out on one of those. I think it was Roy Mars getting collected coming through the snake, so 5th in the championship as well has had a torrid time. Christopher Stahl, so many drivers that we thought could be in contention have seemingly fallen down the order. It's going to be great news though for other drivers in the championship, because they'll be able to profit from others' misfortune. What a hectic and crazy first half a lap we've seen here at Virginia in the AM race. Following now, close fighting. In fact, are we going to go to replays soon?
Yeah, let's take a look at, well, things have calmed down just a moment. In fact, we'll stay here just to watch Kevin Abbey alongside Alexander Rogenberg there. Rogenberg has moved up a fair few positions. There's smoke up ahead. Driver locking up, going into the roller coaster section. Seems okay at the moment, but yes, let's get a quick replay as we end lap 1 of Mark Winters. Green car there on the left. Braking. Oh, and it was a car just ahead, getting out of shape, and collects, well, pretty much every other car in front of him. It was Mark Winters' attempt to avoid someone moving in the braking zone, presumably. Let's see if we can get a quick replay of what happened further up ahead later on in this lap. Let's skip to Christopher Stahl and see what happened. We'll stay with this replay just to watch what happens. So Stahl goes through the snake and just gets it out of shape. And the 4th place car also, that's the virtual best racing car, also lost it. That was Theo Schlery. And yeah, terrible start. Now let's catch up with the live action. And we've got Christopher Stahl back here in 15th place. What about our championship leader? Well, James Ebram up to 6th place. 9 places gained already. This is a dream start for Ebram.
Alright, so that's going to be essentially a big ask for him coming into this this race, starting from 15th on the grid, but he's certainly making up plenty of positions as we see now. He could make up another coming out of Oak Tree Bend. Well, he's going to be already alongside. That is, well, I think that's Jacob Money that he's passing now. So Jacob Money for Positively Racing slots in behind James Ebram, and these two were very close together, racing with one another. It is a really entertaining fight. Jacob Money, last season's AM champion, if memory serves me correctly. So what can the Positively Racing do? Maybe as a answer back coming out of Hog Pen down the front straight now is into the slipstream. Plenty of speed being gained in this draft. Looks to the outside there into the horseshoe. Is he going to be late enough on the brakes to send a move? No, that's covered off for the moment by James Ebram, but he's overshot the corners, James. There's a cut back on the cards. No, they're going to slot back, and I hope that we see the drivers calming down a little bit, because I don't know if my voice can take 2 hours of entertaining excitement like this.
Well, we've got the first lap of the pro race coming up later on, but just to check up on the front, Felipe Riquelme blasting away at the front. A very good start to his race, and a gap of 5 seconds already, so nice and easy. I mean, he got it a little bit easy with forgot the name, Stahl, spinning at the first lap there, but a nice healthy lead at the moment with Justin Ewing in 2nd place at the moment. See what he can do as he recovers after the shenanigans of lap 1. And Ebram up to 5th place as we saw his move on 6th place. Jacob Money, this is the championship leader, up 10 places so far, so we'll monitor his progress rather closely. We have got further back in the field Nunes and Alexander Rogenberg has taken a spin at the oak tree there. Let's take a replay of that. Was fairly far behind Nunes. Yeah, just a spin on his own going into the oak tree, and has to recover to get back on the track, and there's a long way back. It's looking like a dismal race for Rogenberg so far. Back to live action, he gets away quite a long way back, as we mentioned. Oh, and a good move there between, good battle there between Jacob Money and James Ebram. Nothing come of it just yet. Ebram just about hanging on. He's got fourth place, Gabriel Stork in front to catch up with, as well as defend from Money behind. Through turn 4 they go, and there's a lot of A's and B's on this track, going through 6A and 6B right now. They've just been through 4A and 5A and B. Now coming up to 7, then turn 8A, turn 8B, turn 9, and then into the south bend they go, and breaking away a little bit from Money is Ebram. So they come down to the famous turn 11 and 12, and a big off there for Jacob Money, straight into the tyre wall, and that'll be race over for him. Let's get a replay. What happened there?
We'll see exactly what happens now. Following Jacob Money through the south bend. Oh, just a wheel on the grass on the exit. Loses control, tries to regain it, but the walls are very close at certain parts of the circuit. I'm carrying the amount of speed that Jacob Money was, that was always going to end up in damage. You can see the left-hand wheel there. I think that wheel isn't rotating, is it? It's definitely stuck up on something. There's a lot of damage on Jacob Money's car. He's going to have to nurse that into the pits. Not this pits, this is the pit lane on the other layout of the circuit. Instead, he's going to have to wait a long time going through the roller coaster around Hogbend before he can get that car seen to. I don't know if there's any real way back into the race for Jacob at the moment. Yeah,
it's a shame to see him out, the defending champion. Still plenty of time left in the championship, but certainly not a great start to the season for Jacob Money, unfortunately. The race goes on, and James Ebram, 5th place, dropped back a little bit from Stork. He's now got Fernandez behind to worry about as well, so Ebram almost dominant, along with Christopher Stahl in Hockenheim. At Virginia, it's just not seeming that way at the moment. It is still Riquelme out front, dominating things at the moment, and the gap is up to 7 seconds between Riquelme and Justin Hume. So nice, easy race thus far for Riquelme.
Yeah, but racing in this championship is never easy, is it? Especially at Virginia International Raceway, all it takes, as we've seen from other drivers, is one small mistake, a little bit of an error, and he could be falling victim as well. So he can't afford to rest on his laurels just yet. He does have some drivers on big charges, James Ebram being one of them, gaining 10 positions so far this race. Gabriel Stork just ahead of him has also gained 8 positions. So very good drive from the Straight Avenue Esports Racing driver, 134, up into 4th place.
James Ebram defending from Fernandez Montes, coming into the horseshoe there. It's a very tricky corner to overtake on. If you defend the inside, you're leaving the outside vulnerable, and it's one of those where an undercut you can try, it just doesn't quite happen. We saw that a little earlier on, and look at that, James Ebram's rear end is all over the place and nearly lost the position there, coming out of corner 4A and 4B, and it's dropping back more and more from 4th place. That rear end is not all hooked up on that Apex Tech Racing Dallara at the moment, as we see Fernandez real close, and it is a very tricky place to overtake. You need a nice deep entry into the oak tree coming up now. Taking a nice wide line and a late apex around the tree, but actually that was a good corner from Ebram. But Stork breaking away from this battle, which is now turned from the battle for 4th to the battle for 5th. Stork can now focus on catching up with Blancard in front. Blancard in 3rd place, going through the roller coaster there. And there are the gaps between all our drivers at the moment. It's a 7.8 second gap between Riquelme and Young. Everitt extending, and then just over a second gap between Blancard and Young. So Blancard will be looking to gain in. Let's see what the last lap was from Blancard, and nearly a second quicker, 0.8 to be almost precise. And connection difficulties there for Young, so this could turn into a battle for second soon, Ed.
Definitely could. We're going to see, though, if everything is all fine. Like you mentioned, connection difficulties for Justin Young, and I've unfortunately been on the receiving end of those. I've had races taken away from me by virtue of disconnection with internet, and there's other things that it's just very gutting when that happens. So we'll hope, for Justin Young's sake, that everything is sorted very soon, and he can stay focused on the racing and not on the state of his internet connection. Well, like you said, this battle has been threatening to materialise between James Ebram and Alvaro Fernandez-Montes, but for the moment it all seems to be closing in, and I think they're quite steady at the moment. As I say that, James Ebram gets very loose coming out of Oak Tree, but not as loose as Gabriel Stork. Lost out a lot more time to Gabriel, so maybe the pressure is beginning to tell on 4th place. Who knows what could happen.
We'll catch back up with these very, very shortly as the battle for 4th closes in a little bit. We had our season proprietor EJ Fellner there, making a pass on Mark Winters, who's involved in the lap 1 incident. A nice clean pass on the straight there to approach the roller coaster. Doing very well at the moment. EJ into the top 10 he goes.
Yeah, very good pass indeed. It was all done, I think, from a good run coming out of Oak Tree, and that's a crucial corner of the circuit, and one that's very difficult to get right because you're turning while braking all the way through 11 and 12, trying to get it right.
I hate to interrupt, but we actually had something happen to James Ebram while we were looking at the replay, going through the final corner. There, oh, runs wide coming out of the corner onto the grass, and the curb just sucked his car onto the grass, and that has let by Alvaro Fernandez-Montes into 5th place. James Ebram, what was looking like a promising start to the season, is going a little bit pear-shaped at the moment here at Virginia, round 2. But as we said, long season to go. And 6th place at the moment. It's not terrible, certainly not. But coming out of last week, you would have hoped for better coming into today, certainly.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money there. However, the driver that's not been on the money is Jacob, and I haven't seen Jacob out on track since his incident. So positively racing driver that we saw up the road actually battling for a period of time with James Ebram, and last season's AM Championship, Jacob Annie, I'm not sure if he's going to be taking any further part in this race. It says he's out of the session, so unfortunately positively racing, no part taken in this race, so we can instead focus back to this battle that could materialise between EJ Fielder and Mark Winters. Has Mark got any reply for EJ? This is where we saw the pass happen last time. How strong is the slipstream for Mark for digital downforce racing? Try saying that 3 times fast. But he's coming into the roller coaster now, covered off down the inside by EJ Fielder. Excellent bit of the circuit, but at the moment no moves seemingly being made. There's a little bit of a twitch there for Mark Winters, and is that going to allow him to get caught up by the car behind? I don't think the car behind is for position. However, it still might be a little bit of a battle we could see, because he is faster and he is well within his rights to try and overtake. And, well, I'm not sure which car that is, but he's certainly going through, isn't he?
I think that's Carlos Ponce in 14th place, a lap down, but making waves here, trying to make up laps, I presume, at the moment. But Ponce breaking up that battle, which is between 10th place EJ Vilna and fellow American Mark Winters. So the thorn in the side of Winters, he does not need. Oh, as they bunch up, a Constantina effect as Vilna. Well, I was going to use the wrong words then, but yeah, just braking heavily going through turn 4 there. And they all managed to get away with it just about. It might have been a little bit of a bump between the 2 cars, but they get away with it. Vilna still ahead of Ponce at the moment, but the gap between 10th and 11th, Vilna and Winters, extends. We'll see if it closes back up. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the track, we have got Blanchard still hovering around about the same times as Justin Young, but we'll see if that can close up. The cars behind this battle, however, that's Fernandez in 4th place, a fair way ahead of Ibram now, but they are lapping a little bit quicker, so we might see them start to close in. We're a quarter of the way through the race so far. We'll have pit stops coming up in approximately 15 minutes if last week was anything to go by. So we'll see the drivers really decide their pace now, whether they've been conserving their tyres. Oh, and Ibram's just gone off the track there. Let's take a quick look at that. And he's into the tyres. That might be race over for him. And yes, it is. He reverts back to the pit. So let's get a replay of that. Coming out of turns 4 and 5. Oh, the rear end gets loose, gets it on the gravel, and that's it. You cannot save it. Into the tyres he went, and race over for our championship leader already in this race, 15 minutes in. That is done and dusted for today for James Ibram.
Oh, it's so very disappointing, isn't it? Into those tyre barriers, and they're very sticky tyre barriers in iRacing, aren't they? Your car gets wedged in amongst the tyres, and you can't get out, you can't get in reverse gear. So the only option is to pull into the pits, like we saw James Ibram do there, his car vanishing out of existence into the pits. So now I think it is just EJ Fjellner that has to fly the flag for Apex Tech Racing. He's got Andy Spicer there with him as well. Can't really. Oh, what happened there? Is that potentially? Is that Michael Flus having an incident? I think that might have been Michael Flus. Yes, it was. And he was rejoined the circuit and then had a bit of a hit up the rear for good measure by EJ Fjellner. And does EJ now have damage to the front of his car? Is he vulnerable perhaps on the straight? You can see that was it coming into turns 11 and 12. So easily done locking up the brakes in these cars. But look at that. I think there was a lock-up himself from EJ. I'm not sure if Michael Flus's car is all right as well, actually, after all of that. There's been definitely a surprising amount of attrition in this first race of the evening, the race.
I was just about to say that, but let's quickly revert to a replay of Stahl passing Gabriel Stork for P5. Coming into turn 3, and a nice move up the inside. And in fact, it almost looked like Gabriel Stork just let Stahl go. Yeah, very strange, but that's the move for 5th place.
Stahl has been very quick. Sorry to cut in there, but Stahl has been very quick since the beginning of the race, where we saw him drop back through the order. He's currently on a charge back up to very qualified. If he can get up in to 3rd place, that'll be exactly where he put the car in qualifying session. Christopher Stahl, he's got a little bit of a job to do to get to that point. Alvaro Fernandez Montes is about 10 seconds up the road, and Hans Blanca is a further, I believe, 5 or 6 seconds up the road from there. So Stahl's going to have his work cut out for him, but from the rate he's going so far, I don't think there's any better drivers for the job.
Stahl very, very close, in fact, to fastest lap of the race. Riquelme with the fastest lap so far. There are a couple of bonus points on offer in this series. You get 1 bonus point for pole position, 1 bonus point for fastest lap, which Riquelme is holding at the moment, 1 bonus point for gaining the most positions in the race, and 1 point for being the safest driver in the race, so the driver with the least instant points. And you've got to say, at the moment, with the way things have been, Riquelme is definitely one of the safest drivers on the track, as he's just been involved in no action whatsoever. But yeah, plenty of bonus points on offer, so plenty for the drivers to target, even in lower positions than what they would have hoped for. Still plenty to go for in this series.
Yeah, definitely, and you can see now Felipe Riquelme for off-track racing, the Chilean driver. We haven't seen too much of him so far this race, but the stuff we have seen from him has been brilliant. It's a very good drive for him so far as he comes into the pits very early indeed. What has happened here for Felipe? Is this difference in strategy perhaps, or what is going on? Other drivers as well, Justin Young peeling off into the pits as well.
Some interesting strategies at play. Blanchard has gone in the pits as well, so this must be something we're not aware of, where all drivers have got a reduced capacity.
Wow, they got 50% fuel.
Yeah, 50%.
Instead of 75, I think, that was previously
beat me to it. But yes, less fuel capacity, which means more pit stops in the 1 hour range. So last time we were seeing drivers pit at around about the 30-minute mark, this time at the 20-minute mark. And we'll see another pit stop before the end of the race. So Raquel May back out on track. A nice quick splash and dash there. Justine June comes back out onto the track. There goes Blancart in 3rd place, straight back out, and they're all... Oh, hang on a minute. Christopher Stahl, just looking at Christopher Stahl, he's in the pits for a bit longer than Alvaro Fernandez Montes. Stork is coming around the final corner now. Stork will stay out, but Christopher Stahl now leaves, and it looks like Stahl might have... oh, as he holds up... Oh, he held up Stork, and that was a... No, it wasn't. He was holding up someone else I can't tell you the name of, because I can't see the number. But Stahl coming across, trying to stay ahead of the car behind, coming out of the pits. But I tell a lie, the gap between Stahl and Fernandez is around about the same as what it was before. I thought momentarily that Stahl was taking on tyres, but I was incorrect in that assumption. He stays 5th, and he stays around about 10 seconds behind Fernandez. It'd be interesting to see if any drivers come in for tyres on the next pit stop, though. Although there'll be 20 minutes remaining in the race, it's likely not. But Raquel May at the end of the pit stops remains out in the lead. Only 7 drivers on the lead lap. And someone asking on the YouTube comments, AG Lual, has AB retired? I think you meant by that comment. Yes, AB, quite a few laps down, has retired back to the pits. There was an incident around about mid-race that AB was involved in. Oh, and there is a crash further back in the field. EJ Filner has had an incident coming out of the pits here. Comes to a stop and reverts to the pits. So EJ Filner, I'm not sure what happened there. Left the pit lane and then very shortly later retired. I wonder if something happened in the pits, like didn't take on enough fuel or something like that.
Maybe, or if potentially what you can sometimes get is if you run too much into the pit lane, if you potentially get yourself a slowdown penalty, what it can do is sometimes iRacing throws a bit of a wobbly and makes you serve the penalty, but then doesn't allow you to then service the car. So all of a sudden then you need to go for another lap. But if you're already out of fuel, you can't go that extra lap. So potentially that might have been what's happened to EJ Fuel, and we'll see if we can get confirmation of that later on. But it has happened before, and I've taken part in. It might have also just happened to EJ.
Just looking at a replay there for Rogenbook, it's not been a good race for him, unfortunately. Spin coming out of the snake there. Resumes the race, still in 10th place, so Rogenbook not involved in his involved in his own personal little incidents, but staying in the race. Still good championship points if he can keep it going to the end, certainly. But meanwhile at the front, as we cross over 23 minutes and start lap 15 of the race, Felipe Raquelme out in front in the lead. In 2nd place we've got Justin Yoon in the T3 Esports machine. Just a bit further back is Hans Blancart in the Stage 1 racing machine. 4th place Alvaro Fernandez Montes in the Iridium Motorsports machine. Crosses the line in 4th place at the moment. Christopher Stahl, 2nd in the championship coming into tonight. That might change after this race. A flash of the lights to let the back marker know he's coming towards. He's in 5th place at the moment, is Christopher. Adam Proud, who's involved in an incident further back in the field earlier on in the race. 6th place for him at the moment. 7 places gained, one of the highest gained of the race, with the exception of Rogenbook, who has 8 places gained at the moment. Mark Winters in 2nd place was one of the cars involved in the turn 1 lap 1 incident, but carrying on good and well in 7th place. James Ebram is back out on track, which is good to see, good to hear for Apex Tech racing drivers. He's in 8th place at the moment, with a few drivers dropping off the radar in these last few minutes or so. Carlos Ponce in 9th place of Iridium Motorsports. And as we said, 10th is Alexander Rogenbook. And a lap down is Rogenbook. Further back, Gabriel Stork in 11th place, was running in the top 5, battling for the top 5, has dropped down to 11th at the moment. Michael Flukes in 12th position for VfB Stuttgart. 12th position there. Andy Spicer in 13th place, and the rest of the field from 14th down. Oh no, do excuse me, that's EJ Filner still running. Do pardon me there. From 17th down are DNFs out of the race. Filner carrying on, so it was a revert back to the pits, got a tow, but then rejoined the track. We'll have to find out just a bit later on what happened. Kevin Abbey is still running. Took a tow back to the pits and repaired the car and is now back out in 15th place. Still finishing the race still scores you points, so that's what these drivers have prioritised at this point. Is only 35 minutes remaining in the race, so they may as well carry on to try and pick up some points. Some points are better than no points. And last of the runners, Daniel Nunez in 16th there for ENCC team. And that is our 16 runners still in the race. Retirees at the moment: Jacob Money, Theo Schlere, Roy Mass, and Rodrigo Lezowiski. We're looking at Hans Blankard there in 4th place. And now to look at Felipe Riquelme lapping traffic. Back to Blankard, who is just ahead of Mark Winters there. Mark Winters in 7th place has fallen a lap down in the last few laps or so. And Riquelme crosses the line on a 1 minute 38.1. 14-second lead ahead of Justin June. But yeah, only 6 drivers still on the lead lap, and we did mention at the beginning of the broadcast, Ed, that Virginia International Raceway is a very tricky track. It's very narrow. And
yeah, and I'm surprised to see this amount of drivers, only a few drivers, a handful if you will, that are on the lead lap. That just shows, doesn't it, the level that Felipe Riquelme has been on for off-track racing, that he's been this quick to put laps on so much of the field, and we're not even halfway through the race, so plenty of time for drivers to try and get their race back on track and get themselves some good points. With, like you said, we've seen some drivers going back through. James Ebram being one of them for Apex Tech Racing. What a story that could be. He can get himself a good haul of points after the dramas and calamities that we saw coming through the snake section, where we thought that his race was over, but he's certainly proven us wrong and proven any doubters what he's capable of, and that is a great recovery drive.
Absolutely, and finishing 8th place, whether you're a lap down or whether you're not, finishing 8th place will score him 23 points in comparison to, coming into tonight, his championship rival Stahl in 5th place, finishes this race on 26 points, so really not that much difference. So the two pending bonus points and that sort of thing would be tied on points coming out of tonight. It obviously depends, you know, I'm not going to use my maths to their full potential right now, but with others where they are in the field at the moment could shake up the championship just a bit. But yeah, James Ebram, valiant to carry on, but in 8th place, certainly better than what he would have thought it was, well, how he thought it was going at the point where the incident happened earlier on in the race. But we're nearing the halfway point here for round 2, the AM race of Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship. Race leader at the moment, Felipe Riquelme of round 2, the Apex Technologies round 2 race. And this race, we should have mentioned earlier, sponsored by TPI Aerospace. A huge thank you to them for sponsoring this event today. We'll see many more sponsors and features throughout the season. And speaking of the season, the layout as it comes through the season, we're in round 2 of VIR right now. Last week was round 1 at Hockenheim. Round 3 coming up in 3 weeks' time on June the 3rd will be round 3 at Spa-Francorchamps. Round 4, the 27th of June, will be the Nürburgring Nordschleife. In these cars, that's going to be a very, very exciting race to follow. June the 11th will be round 5 at Monza. Round 6 on the 25th of July will be the Road America round, followed on the 8th of August for Suzuka. And then the final round of the championship on the 22nd of August. Final round of the championship will take place at one of the king circuits of endurance racing, Sebring. So a very, very healthy roster of tracks we're visiting throughout the season. And just to take a look at a replay, Carlos Ponce, who was running in 9th place, down to 11th now, had an instant going into the horseshoe, turn 1, blocking off an Apex Tech machine. That might have been Ibram he's holding up there. But Ponce spins in turn 1, gets going again, no damage on the car, thankfully, but a drop of positions, 2 positions to 11th. Gets away safe and sound. Blancart, we're watching there, 3rd place. Let's see if the gap has changed at all between him and Yoon. In fact, it's got a little bit closer between them, so Justin Yoon in a little bit of trouble here. I mean, with half an hour to go, the gap is shrinking between them, less than 4 seconds between them. We'll see if the battle for second will intensify as time goes by. Christopher Stahl and Alvaro Fernandez Montes getting a little bit closer, and there was a move from Stahl on Montes, and in fact it was Montes who spun coming out of the final corner, so let's get another quick replay of that. We will get there eventually. Oh, and just dips the rear onto the grass, and this track is so tricky, as we've mentioned many times, and that was an example of it, where the track is just so bumpy, hilly and very narrow at the same time. But also considering that, these drivers have probably opted for a fairly low downforce type of setup, which on a bumpy track like this will unsettle the rear quite easily. And that's kind of what we saw with Fernandez there, where he's trying to get it through the roller coaster section as quick as possible, but the rear end just being a bit tentative with himself. Nips a wheel on the grass, and once you put a wheel on the grass in these cars, it's really, well, I wouldn't say game over, but it gets very, very tricky to handle. So just looking at Blancart here, he's dropped back a little bit. The second's fallen, and he did take an excursion on the grass. This is coming into turn 1, broke very late. And the rear end just gives in and went wide and onto the grass. So Blancart was driving very, very quickly indeed, and it paid the price, pushing a little bit hard, too hard going into turn 1, and drops a lot of time. So that gets Justin Yoon out of the pressure zone. 11 seconds clear of Blancart now, and now he can focus on bringing it home in 2nd place.
Yes, absolutely. He's got to focus on that, as we see. Well, there's plenty of drivers, aren't they? We're seeing, we thought for a moment, maybe the drivers would have calmed down, but no, mistakes still somehow creeping through. But like you mentioned, it's all about bringing it through till the end, looking after the car, and just really able to focus on the bigger picture of the championship, isn't it? It's not worth trying to push as hard as you can every single point, because you can make mistakes, but then you've also got to balance it by having such thing as too conservative. So they've always got these things to try and balance in their minds. But at the moment, Justin Young trying to do as best as he can to bring home a good 2nd place. That'd be very good for the T3 Esports driver.
Absolutely will. And just a little check up on what happened in the championship standings following last week. There's a couple of drivers in the AM category not here today, rather, unfortunately. Christian Radat, who was 3rd at Hockenheim last week, not here today, so he'll drop quite a bit in the championship. And we've still got the likes of James Ibram, Christopher Stahl, who are watching there, going side by side with someone through the snake there. It'll be very interesting to see what happens in the championship after today. It might close up just a little bit. We've got Mark Winters as well to consider. He's in 7th place right now, but 4th in the championship, coming out of Hockenheim last week. But this man right here, Christopher Stahl, in probably one of the healthiest positions of those that did very well last week, might end up leading the championship after today. But Raquel May, who I don't think he raced last week, no, I don't think he did, is doing very, very well right now, and will kick-start what will be a late start appearance in the AM category championship today. We'll see how he will fare in the rest of the season. We've got Spa-Francorchamps in 3 weeks' time. One of the best racetracks ever, in my personal opinion. Just watching James Ebram here, he was getting very shaky on the rear end coming out of the roller coaster, putting the power down, trying to catch up with Mark Winters. And we'll just see how far ahead Mark Winters is. Very long way ahead is the answer to that. So Mark Winters there is going through turns 3 and into 4 now. James Ebram's only just going into turn 1. He's got a back marker ahead, trying to make his way past. Still good points, as we mentioned earlier, for James Ebram to help his championship. It's not necessarily in tatters just yet.
No, absolutely. It's a long way to go in this season, like you mentioned. And of course, let's not forget, this is the first time that these drivers have had this format. The first time we didn't see this last season. This is the first time we're seeing it this season. This new format of 2 separate 1-hour races between the AM and Pro divisions. And it's really allowing the drivers to figure out what it's like to actually have a free track, or what to not need to worry about. There's too much traffic. There's still a little bit, of course, but worrying about the level of traffic that we would have seen with the almost 50-car grid that we're used to seeing in these Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship style grids. I think that would have been a bit too much to ask for around Virginia.
Yes, I think a 40-plus grid would have been a little bit problematic, given this track is quite narrow. But some series, you know, we've seen it with Formula 1 where they're implementing sprint races at some point during this series. This series are going to experiment with different formats, which is great. I think this format is very good in the sense that we can 100% focus on this AM race, and obviously coming up in about 25 minutes time, we'll have full focus on the pro race. The disadvantage is, well, the races aren't quite as long. There's a bit, it does put strategies, well, I wouldn't say in less favour or anything like that, but strategies are less of a focus with smaller races, where you pick up tyres in that longer 2-hour race was crucial last week. This week is much about fuel and going flat out. So we're seeing James Ebram coming around turn 4 there. It's a very tight corner. We've seen a lot of drivers really struggle through that corner. But yeah, throughout the season we are going to see lots of different formats. The second we've seen this season, we're running today 2 1-hour races where the Pro and AMs are separated. And we'll see what we've got in store for the next couple of weeks and months here on Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship.
Yeah, there's plenty of drivers, I think, coming out of this that might have their sights set on the championship. Hans Blancart could definitely be one of them if he can get this podium over the line. Hans Blancart, though, last time. In fact, I'm going to have a look to see what Hans's result was last time.
Didn't have a very good race last time, Blancart. Finished 22nd, so an early retirement, it seems, for Blancart. Still got 9 points out of it. But yeah, not a good race last time out, but this week certainly looking like a good recovery.
Yeah, that's the thing, is about just bouncing back from any upsets that happened early on and try and think of it as, oh, it's any other race. It's not trying to take away the importance that a lot of people give to the first round of a championship, us included as well. We're quite guilty of that as commentators, hyping everything up as much as we can do, but the drivers, they have to treat every single race just like any other. As soon as they start worrying about this and that and other factors that can enter their mind, that can allow a little bit of doubt to kick in, maybe a little bit of worry, or even sometimes complacency, depending on where the drivers are in the championship. But for the moment, Hans Blancart is showing great results to carry on through. Oh, who's that coming off the circuit there? That was one of the Apex Tech cars, and that was DJ Fjellner.
Yeah, running wide with Raquelme, the race leader, right behind. So that's one way of getting him out of the way of the back markers. But yeah, EJ Fjellner has not been a great race for him today, unfortunately, for our season proprietor. 14th at the moment, still picking up good points, but that car just not all hooked up on this track right now, sadly for EJ. We've got Felipe Riquelme in the pits. The off-track racing car not spent much time off-track today, ironically. Straight back out, a quick splash and dash as we hit the 2/3 marker. 40 minutes gone. And back out on track in second place. Justin Hume stayed out, so can get, I presume, can get another lap out of his fuel tank. Has been preserving fuel a little bit more than Riquelme, it seems. So Justin Hume is now our second race leader. One lap led, and presumably will come into the pits at the end of this lap. But we have got an incident we're going to look at further back in the field. Daniel Nunes stopping on the side of the track and reverting to the pits. So I'm not entirely sure what's happened to Nunes there. There's no event previous to that, so yeah, very strange. We'll have to keep an eye on Nunes, see what happens. Other drivers that came into the pits, Blancart was one of them. And Christopher Stahl, I believe, stayed out. Fourth place there has now got third place of Blancart right in front. But Stahl needs to come into the pits at the end of this lap. So Blancart would be pleased he hasn't fell behind any drivers, and he can get his head down and try and catch up with Justin Hume.
Following other drivers try and make their way through traffic as well. We're starting to see, aren't we, at this final stage of the race, into the final 20 minutes, drivers having to navigate back marker traffic, having to do all they can do, and as well, we're starting to think when we expect them to come into the pits next. In fact, some drivers coming into the pits, I think Justin Young is the first driver to do just that. So he should be able to fuel up for the final 20 minutes of this race, or well, now about 18 minutes left in this race. Justin Young for T3 Esports is hoping to come in and out of the pits without any dramas, and exits the pit lane now. Meanwhile, well, it's a good fight, wasn't there, between Hans Blancart and Christopher Stahl. Neither driver opting to come into the pits just yet, are they, Alex? So
I believe Blancart has already pitted. Christopher Stahl definitely hasn't, though. Christopher Stahl has managed to conserve fuel really, really well, it seems, as he stayed out for additional 2 laps on top of what Riquelme and Blancart have done. So, very impressive driving from Stahl to see if he comes into the pits at the end of this lap. But he's now got third in his sights, and he's really not easing off on Blancart ahead. They have got Mark Winters right behind as well to threaten things even more. He's in 7th place at the moment, is Winters. Through the snake and into the following complex of turns 7, 8 and 9. Flying through this very fast section of the track into the left-hander that goes over a slight crest and down into the oak tree section. And this section of the track, I checked on Google Maps earlier, is only 500 meters away from crossing over from the crossover into another state. So the North Carolina and Virginia state border is only half a kilometer away from that moment of the track. Interesting fact for anyone who likes geography out there. I doubt there's anyone that really cares, but
I care, Alex. I care.
That's good to know.
If no one else does, I care.
Thank you, mate. If anyone else cared about that fact, please let us know in the YouTube comments.
Oh no, we love our fact. We love our little fun facts and tidbits here on Simracersworld TV. We do like to get out any little bit of jargon and trivia we can for you, just to make the broadcast that little bit more entertaining. But I don't think we need to get it any more entertaining, because look at this fight for third place. Christopher Stahl looks down the inside and there's contact there. Christopher Stahl hits the rear end of Hans Blancart. But Hans, after doing so well, has unfortunately just been tagged, and we're going to get a replay of this now. Is it a late look down to the inside? Oh, just far too much taken into the corner there. That's definitely, unfortunately, the blame placing on Christopher Stahl for that incident.
Yeah, something for the post-race stewards to look at, certainly. But there might be a few token Belgian-style naughty words coming out of Blancart's mouth right now towards Christopher Stahl. But Stahl now promoted to third place. I swear he hasn't come into the pits. This is very strange. Unless it's a strategy I've missed somewhere. But third place for him at the moment. Blancart's down to 5th place now. Has lost position as well to Alvaro Fernandez. What was looking like a pretty decent podium finish for Blancart, who's looking to reinvigorate his season after the disappointment of 22nd place last time out of Hockenheim. Drops to 5th. Still a good result, but certainly not anywhere near what he was looking like earlier on in the race. It's now 2 T3 eSports drivers on the podium at the moment, with Christopher Stahl coming through the final section. Let's just see if he comes into the pit right now. I'm very confused by this. What kind of a crazy strategy has Christopher Stahl got on his... well, what kind of a strategy has his pit crew given to him today? This is something that's really fooled me today, as he's just ahead of Mark Winters. Mark Winters showing very good pace. 4th place at Hockenheim last week. Yeah, Christopher Stahl might have a bit of a target on his back right now, with Blancart down in 5th place now, and it certainly didn't look purposeful, did it, Ed? I mean, just going into turn 1, broke a little bit too late, and tried to avoid it, but in these cars, once you lock up, they just go straight, don't they?
Yeah, there was definitely no malice on the part of Christopher Stahl for that move, and we've seen him before in other series and other seasons. Seen him as a driver, he's never that kind of driver to deliberately take out. It was just a little bit of a mistake, but those little errors can have big consequences and ramifications later down the line. I think he'll probably accept the incoming penalty with... he won't be happy to receive it, but I think he'll definitely be understanding of what's been going on, shall we say, and what the incident was. Meanwhile, we're going to hope that this fight doesn't have any incidents in it, because look at this, down the inside. Oh, is Michael Fluce? He's going to go for it. He's going to lock up on the brakes. Andy Spicer had to be very disciplined there in getting through. I think he realised that Michael down the inside braking that late was always going to make a mistake, but brilliant driving there. And Michael Fluce has been showing good pace. We might see him regain a little bit more pace, regain that gap, and have a second go at it.
Fluce looking very, very savvy for 12th place there, just a slight lock-up, and these cars, like the GTEs on iRacing as well, I know it because I drive GTEs a lot, once you put a bit too much brake pressure on, there's no saving these. And by the way, I'm going to pay a little compliment to the livery that Michael Fluce has got in his car. I mean, you can see the team name there of VF Baird Stuttgart there. I think that is something to do with the football team in Germany, so yeah, I'm very, very impressed with that livery. One of my favourites in the field at the moment. Meanwhile, back with the racing, Andy Spicer, who got away from Fluce there, still in 11th. I mean, the person he's got to chase down is 10th place runner, James Ebram, which is going to be no easy task, and we know James Ebram quite well by now that winning Hockenheim last week, trying to make his way back up the order, 10th at the moment. He was running in 8th at one point in this race, so it's dropped down a little bit with what's happened to the pit stops and the car going wide there. That looked like Blancart there going wide, so the pressure adding on Blancart, the frustrations adding to him with what happened a few laps ago. Ran wide coming out of the oak tree. Still in 5th place at the moment. He did not lose a position with Ebram passing him there, as Ebram is a lap down. But yeah, the pressure and the frustration telling in the 5th place driver at the moment.
Yeah, so we're seeing a little bit of a battle between, I think, Matt Marker and faster car Andy Spicer there. Getting past, but I can't see the car number there on the side of it there. It's the mystery black and purple car.
I'm trying to find out too, and I can't quite see it. Got no hope. But a good battle raging between these two. It's not for position, unfortunately. Spicer in the Apex Tech car trying to get it to the end. It hasn't been, with everything that happened on lap 1, it hasn't been the best of races for Apex Tech today.
Found out the car. It's Daniel Nunes.
There we go. So Daniel Nunes, we saw pull to the side earlier on, making a pretty decent move on Andy Spicer, trying to reinvigorate his race. Last of the runners has got Kevin Aby to try and catch up with. Now Kevin Aby's in the pits, so this might make up a little bit of time for Daniel Nunes. Swiss driver pulls into his pit slot now. Will take on some fuel and get back on track to hopefully come through, hopefully for himself, come through in 15th place. Gabriel Stork here in 8th place. We haven't mentioned him for a little while in the Straight Avenue Esports Racing Machine. 8th place there is a long way ahead of James Ebram, but Stork will be trying to catch up with Mark Winters in 7th place. A long way behind, but anything can happen, particularly in these final phases of the race. And just to mention again, you've heard, may have heard us throughout the broadcast, but in case you have recently joined us, we do have another race coming up. After this one, we have got the 1 hour race, the pro race, coming up about 5 minutes after we finish the AM race here, which ends in about 9 minutes and 10 seconds time. That pro race will certainly be exciting if this race has been anything to go by. Pro drivers, the top tier category drivers, and last week we saw quite a lot of fireworks in that race at Hockenheim. This narrow track we've got here today could be even more spicy.
Oh, we do like a nice amount of spice here on Simracersworld TV, and we're going to be hoping that it comes to the forefront, doesn't it? Following Alvaro Fernandez Montez, and now to James Ebram. James is dropping back a little bit down the order. I think is part of the early trip to the pits with damage getting that repaired and then coming back out on the circuit has brought him out of sync with the rest of the field in terms of the strategy. So that is probably the reason as to why. Meanwhile, well, following a fight between Alvaro Fernandez Montez and I think that is Mark Winters with Digital Downforce Racing trying to get up the order and get through. Mark Winters is a lap down, I believe, on Alvaro Fernandez, so instead is trying to unlap himself for the moment. Alvaro's holding firm for now, and instead maybe starting to shift his focus further forward at Christopher Stahl. What are the lap times between the pair of them? So the gap between the pair of them is about 3.5 seconds. Lap time wise, about 1/10 of a second. Alvaro Fernandez Montez slightly faster with 1:37.9 compared to Christopher Stahl's 1:38.0. So the gap is coming down, but not quick enough for Alvaro Fernandez to catch by the end of the race.
Yeah, and anything can happen in this race. So the battle is on time-wise between Stahl and Fernandez, but time is not on Fernandez's side. With less than 8 minutes to go, he's got Mark Winters all over the rear of him, about half a second back. Only the top 5 on the lead lap at the moment. With everything that's happened in this race, it's been a very, very action-packed race. Incidents here and there. And we are looking at the Spicer now, just ahead of the VfB Stuttgart livery machine of Michael Flus. This is one of the closest battles on the track for position, so these two are battling for that top 10 spot. Both 2 laps down, both fighting for position and a few extra points, which of course helps in their championship bid. Flus go on board with him to see the car ahead, and look how much he pulled up on him going through the complex there. Coming down to the oak tree now. Late braking, gains a little bit under braking. Michael Flus had to back out of that. He seemed to brake a little bit too late, and he just can't get the car turned into the oak tree as the tyres do reach, well, edge towards the end of their life cycle. Didn't get a very good exit out of the oak tree there. We'll have to try again at another corner. But this battle is certainly one to keep an eye on, the battle for 10th position. There's another car just ahead of Andy Spicer there to help tow things along as that car runs wide, lets them both through. Bank 3 doesn't get involved in the action, and that was EJ Filner who did go off track just then. EJ Filner seems to be letting by a lot of the overlapping traffic by just putting it on the grass, it seems. Whether that's purposeful or not, I'm not quite sure. Yeah, at least what we have seen from many of these back markers today, Ed, it's not nice being a back nine. No one wants to be. No one wants to see that dreaded blue
Absolutely.
flag. Yeah, but they have been adhering very, very well today to the blue flags. Although it's not really a strict rule in racing, it has been very, very easy for some of these drivers to get past the left traffic, hasn't it?
Definitely, and a lot of it comes down to sort of courtesies that tell the drivers the blue flags are purely advisory, but drivers are being very good to currently adhere to them. Meanwhile, there's no blue flags in this situation whatsoever. Michael Fluce now right up behind yet again Andy Spicer for Apex Tech Racing as they make their way through Oak Tree now. How good is the exit from Michael Fluce? It's good, but maybe not quite as good as Andy Spicer's. And have the slipstream as we come on board now with the VFB Stuttgart driver 193, not closing in actually, not closing in enough to really make a difference. So is that potentially the signal that Michael Fluce has a lot of downforce on the car and is sacrificing speed potentially through the corners? Or sacrificing speed on the straights?
Are you a mind reader, Ed? I was just thinking exactly the same thing. Yeah, it just seems that Fluce is getting through the faster sections very, very well, and on the straights, of course, he's seeming very, very quick. But the higher downforce setup potentially on Andy Spicer's car ahead is getting him through corners like the Horseshoe coming up now and the Oak Tree far better. But look at that. Michael Fluce had to evade away from hitting the rear of Andy Spicer. We nearly saw a similar scenario that of Stahl and Blanca earlier in the race. Fluce, although he's running, might be... Oh, and he spins just in front of the traffic, and they all just about avoid him, and Fluce pushing very hard in turn 3 there. Spins it coming through turn 3. There's another car spinning there. That is Alexander Rogenbuch. So seeing Fluce on the side there has distracted him, but there we go, the battle for 10th will ease off now. Fluce really struggling to keep hold of that car. There's a little bit of dirt on the tyres presumably, but yeah, that's 10th out the window for Fluce, and music to the ears of Andy Spicer and Apex Tech Racing fans. They are 9th and 10th at the moment, with 10th looking all the more secure for Spicer if he can just keep this going. He has got Riquelme in the Chilean colours behind, lapping him. So we'll let him by, and there's another Apex Tech car just behind. That is not, I think that's EJ Filner. Yes, it is. Just behind Andy Spicer. But Riquelme will be starting the penultimate lap at the end of this one. And it's just been a dominant lights to flag, providing I don't commentate and curse him, drive from Riquelme, 27 seconds clear. That in any form of racing, in any length of time in the race, is some going, isn't it, Ed?
Yeah, definitely. What a drive. What a performance it's been from Felipe Riquelme. It makes us wonder what we would have accomplished if he was there at Hockenheim, because he might have been talking about a second win on the bounce for Felipe Riquelme now. Very good drive from the 188, and there isn't too long left in this race. Only a couple more laps to go, really, aren't there? And yeah, I would enjoy this format, actually, that we've been able to see the difference in a sort of racing style, isn't it? This is more of a sprint to the end and a sprint up the hill. Seeing these two drivers, Gabriel Stork getting through on one of the Apex Tech Racing cars. I think that might have been James Ebram, or was it Andy Spicer? I
think it was Andy Spicer, but there has been a bit of action further up the grid. Positions 3 and 4. Alvaro Fernandez Montes passing Christopher Stahl apparently. Look at the replay now, he's nowhere near Christopher Stahl. Let's just take another look. I think it might have actually been Christopher Stahl having a few technical difficulties. But he's still ahead, and he's still some time ahead. The gap is coming down, however, between these two. Battle for third might be on in the final lap of the race. Less than 3 seconds between them. It might not, well, it might be a little outstretched to predict the battle between them, actually. But with less than a minute to go, Riquelme will start the final lap here. The white flag waves for the Chilean driver. 26 seconds clear, and has eased off in the last few laps. You can just cruise to the finish here. It's been a very quiet race also for Justin Jung as well of the T3 Esports. It's a 2-3 for T3 today provisionally. All results are provisional pending any stewards' reviews, and the standings we read out earlier are also provisional. So, you know, can't set these things in stone just yet, but at the moment it's a very, very good meeting for T3 Esports. Christopher Stahl approaches the end of the lap to start his final lap. He's got Alvaro Fernandez Montes in 4th place, not too far behind. Stahl cannot make a mistake, and it is getting rather close between them. Stahl's on a bit of a roll here. Nearly a second quicker on that last lap than Stahl. Probably not close enough to make a move unless Stahl makes a mistake. But we'll revert to Felipe Riquelme, who is on the back straight. Only a few more corners to go to complete this race, and what's been, as we've mentioned, a very dominant drive from the Chilean driver. Chile won the race last week with Mauricio Cuero taking the pro race, but it's in the AM race this week so far. Oh, and there's a driver just getting in the way of Riquelme, and he very, very professionally gets around it. The checkered flag comes out, a little bit of a heart-stopping moment for him, but he gets across the line to win round 2 of this AM race. Felipe Riquelme wins here at Virginia International Raceway. And Justin Jung will come through the final section here to take a 2nd place. 2 places gained, started 4th on the grid. And the German driver comes across the line to take 2nd here at Virginia. Christopher Stahl in 3rd place, a little bit of a dramatic one for him, but will step up onto that podium nonetheless to lift up the 3rd place AM trophy. A little bit of traffic to negotiate ahead, but still manages to find his way past the lap traffic rather safely and come through in 3rd place. Staying ahead of Alvaro Fernandez Montes is in the wall though. Stuck in the wall, and now I can't find what happened to him there. There we go, went off track. Let's see what happened. Went through that final corner and just pushed too hard. So 4th place for Fernandez was on a plate. He had the final corner to negotiate. Where is he on the track?
I think he was able to just get through.
Yeah, Blancart has only just come through in 4th place. Montes is not appearing on my timing screen. He might have reverted to the pits. Mark Winters has crossed the line, so Fernandez will still finish 5th regardless, because he was a lap ahead of Winters. But the final corner, well, the drama just kept going from start to finish there, and oh my word. Well, Blancart, he was running in 3rd for much of that race, got a place back a little bit by default, but Fernandez, oh my, I can't believe what we've just seen then.
No, that was very dramatic indeed, but it just goes to show, isn't it, that if you do make a mistake at any point in the race, it can be very costly, especially right at the end there. It was so good, like you mentioned, on a plate for Alvaro Fernandez Montes, but it's so easy to make a mistake at any point in the race, but also at the end when emotions are running high, the tensions are there, you realise that you've had to have a good result, and then one small lapse of judgment, and, well, you're just like Fernandez Montes, placing into the wall and losing out.
Very strange, and that must hurt for Fernandez. 3rd place, well, sorry, not 3rd place, 4th place on a plate for him. Just had to get through that final corner. There's a little bit of traffic in front of him, we saw, but tri-line fever maybe, and me being Welsh using an analogy like that basically means getting a bit excited for potential 3rd place right ahead of him, trying to push to get it, but it just didn't happen. But 6th, nope, they're not our right results. We'll get the right ones up for you now. There we go. But yeah, let's run through the standings here at Virginia International Raceway. Only 4 drivers finishing on the lead lap, but here are your provisional standings for race 1 of the night, the AM race, but round 2 of the season. Felipe Riquelme dominates the race. 1st place for him. Justin Jung in 2nd with his teammate Christopher Stahl coming through in 3rd place. Hans Blancart getting a rear end shunt, shoved him down to 5th, but promoting to 4th with the final lap incident with Alvaro. They swap positions for 4th and 5th there. 6th for Mark Winters, a good recovery drive from him. Gabriel Stork in 7th with James Ebram, another good recovery drive to get himself up to 8th place. Adam Proud in 9th with Andy Spicer rounding out the top 10. Michael Floos in 11th there with Alexander Rogenbuch in 12th place. 13th for Carlos Ponche, 14th for EJ Filner, 15th for Kevin Aby, 16th for Daniel Nunez, and the non-finishers of the field unfortunately were Jacob Money, Teo Schlere, Roy Mass, and Rodrigo Lizowiski. So that's been race 1 of the night. And this is round 2 of the Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship. That was the AM race. Coming up next is the Pro race. Join us in just a few moments' time for that. We'll see you in a mo. Welcome back everyone to Virginia International Raceway. This is the Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship, round 2 here at Virginia. This is now the Pro race. We've just seen the AM race. Coming up soon is the Pro race, and they're all in qualifying at the moment. And we'll just briefly let you know of what's going on in the standings in qualifying right now. It is championship leader and last week's winner, Mauricio Guerrero, leading the standings at the moment at the top of the table. Bence Nemethi in 2nd place with Chris Barrett in 3rd place. But before anything, what we'll do before we get going is we'll interview some of the drivers from the previous race as we get ready for the race, the pro race here. And without further ado, we'll bring in the second place finisher, Justin Yoon. Justin Yoon joins us in the commentary box right now. Second place for you, Justin. A fairly quiet race, with the exception of lap 1, but sum up the race in a few words for us there.
Yeah, lap 1 was quite close. Turn 1 is completely close, but after turn 1, only there was a car spinning in front of me. This was another close moment in the race, but I'm able to pass him, and after that I was more or less alone in the completely race and can go my pace. This was quite easy for me because I can save fuel, I can go my speed, I have no pressure and nothing. It was good and easy.
Absolutely, it was a very clean and conservative race from you once the lap 1 shenanigans were out of the way. Was it at all frustrating to see the leader at the front there just pulling away ever so slightly, or is this playing into your plan, your season-long plan?
No, I don't know him. He don't drive the first round, I think. Because of that, I was quite surprised about his lap time in the practice in front of the race. And there I saw that I more or less maybe have no chance against him if he don't do a mistake. And he don't do a mistake, so I see him, he gave me 1 second every round sometimes if I'm saving fuel, and so I can't do much. It was a little bit bad, but it's also a quite difficult track. Maybe next time.
Absolutely, but it was certainly a thoroughly good performance today. Certainly one you'll be much happier with this week than that you were last week. 15th place at Hockenheim. How the next track is Spa-Francorchamps. Is that a track you like, or are there any other tracks in the season you are particularly looking forward to?
Yeah, Spa is a quite good track. We drive it in the last round of the Season 1 Championship. Because of that, I know it. But also, I think I'm good at the Nürburgring Grand Prix. But we need to check what the other drivers are able to go.
Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, other than that, Justin, well done on your second place today here at Virginia. We'll see you in 3 weeks' time at Spa-Francorchamps. Very well done.
Thank you.
And Justin June, second place finisher in the AM race, and we are going to bring in Christopher Stahl, third place finisher, teammates
Hello.
with Justin at the T3 Esports team. Christopher, how did that race go for you?
Yeah, first lap I spun. Big drama, yes, of course, and then I fight back. Very struggles, upper struggles with this track, I think. And I have to sorry, I braked at turn 1 a bit late, and yeah, had a little contact with another guy, and I have to sorry about that. But
Yeah,
it's not my fault. Also, what?
No, it was very, very clear to see. It just was a small mistake from you, non-intentional at all. Was it just getting a bit too late on the brakes?
Yeah, of course. Spot a little bit too late, and that's happened. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very unfortunate, and it's something probably the stewards will look at later. But even still, it was still a very, very good performance from yourself. You showed very, very good place. You were in 5th at one point, particularly after the lap 1 shenanigans. It was looking, very grim for yourself, particularly that you came out of Hockenheim 2nd place in the championship. But it was a good recovery drive, wasn't it?
Yes, of course. I think that is all over, but it was a good fight back to the top, and I'm really happy with that.
Good, you should be. Well, it could be a championship lead after today, so without further ado, Christopher, well done on your 3rd place today. We'll see you in 1 week's time at Spa-Francorchamps.
Yeah, thank you.
So there we go. There are our interviewees from the AM race. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of this upcoming race. This is the pro race we're going to be watching. exactly the same format. We just had a 10-minute qualifying, which sadly we couldn't catch the action of because we were transitioning from the AM race into the pro race. But we have got another 1-hour race coming up for the pro race this time around. And a little bit of a recap of what happened last time out at Hockenheim. It was Mauricio Cuero, who I do believe has taken pole position here, leads the championship with a win at Hockenheim. Diogo Pereira was second place and Peter Zuber was in third place. But without further ado, we will introduce the grid for what is going to be the second race of the night, the pro race here at Virginia International Raceway. And the drivers will begin to grid up now. So the grid is as follows. Mauricio Cuero on pole position after the dominant drive he had at Hockenheim. Starts pole here today at Virginia. Second on the grid will be Benz Nemethi, also had a very good outing at Hockenheim. Chris Barrett, new to the grid this week, in third position with Lucas Bacigalupo in fourth place. Christian Eisler in fifth place with Peter Molnar in sixth. Peter Zuber, who was third place, is seventh with Jamie Conway in eighth position. Alvaro Gutierrez is in the ninth position with Ibo Laubscher in 10th position. 11th place is Jan Burl with Dennis Ruder in 12th position, and Rodrigo Lizawiski, I swear he was in the AM category race, but
He was. He accidentally joined, I think, the AM race, but didn't take part because he's a pro driver, so I think he's been I was able to join the right session this time around for the Realtek Esports team, and we'll hope to see what he can manage now as the cars do get underway, don't they, on their pace lap. Like I mentioned ahead of the AM race, drivers need to look after the fuel. Tyres not so much on this opening pace lap. You are using fuel all the way through, and that could leave you vulnerable come the end. We didn't really see many drivers falling victim, though, did we, to the pit stops? They were pretty much bang on right at the 20-minute marks. So it might not be too much of a strategy fight, but instead an all-out on-track tussle, which is one that I'm very much looking forward to. I'm certain you are as well, Alex.
Absolutely, and we saw the lap one shenanigans. A little bit unfortunate what happened in the AM race coming through this corner, coming out of this corner, in fact. Watching right here, turn 4. But yeah, it'd be very interesting to see the start of this race. There are a few drivers who raced last week we are missing this week. One of them is Diogo Pereira, who it was second in the championship coming out of last week, not here this week. So caution to the wind for Mauricio Cuero, leader of the championship coming in today, pole position on the grid. It's all looking very, very good for the Chile driver. Chile won race 1. Can they win race 2 of the night? We'll see. But yeah, 13 drivers following the pace car around this relatively long track of Virginia International Raceway, keeping the revs low on those cars, keeping the gears high just to save as much fuel as possible. Little amount of throttle input just to help that. Engine map settings to the highest, which is the least fuel burn and lowest RPM range. As they make their way towards the oak tree now, we can just see in the foreground there, of course, the oak tree mentioned earlier on is no longer there. What did make this track quite iconic, apart from the fact that it is a brilliant track anyway, was that oak tree on the apex of the corner. Coming onto the back straight there, Cuero behind the safety car is approaching the end of the lap, and what will be the end of the formation lap and the start of the race very, very soon. Another hour of racing coming up for these drivers. We saw 2 pit stops from the AM category, and we'll see around about the same for these drivers. A very similar format, same amounts of fuel given to them. And as this is the pro category, we'll see some very, very impressive lap times from these drivers as well. Mauricio Cuero leads the field through the roller coaster now. Safety car still ahead, which will peel off into the pit lane very, very shortly. Alongside Mauricio Cuero is Benz Nemethi, Finished 7th last week at Hockenheim. And the final corner they go. This is where we saw Fernandez coming off the track on the final lap of the previous race. And the safety car will peel off here at Virginia International Raceway. Guerrero will lead the field to the line. And away he goes. Nice early start. The lights are green. And away goes Guerrero at the front of the field to lead them into the horseshoe. Into turn 1 we go. Side by side, there's a couple of too wide situations in the mid-pack there. Chris Barrett has already dropped a position to Lucas Bacigalupo. And we've also got Jamie Conway is already up 3 places there in 5th place. The Apex Tech Racing driver right behind his teammate Chris Barrett. Christian Eisler has dropped many positions as well. The Punto CL Racing driver side by side with Jan Burl. Going through turn 4 there, and a big back off of the throttle there coming through turn 4. Coming through turn 5, we saw a big pile up there in race 1, but it's all clean so far, Ed.
All clean so far is the key phrase, isn't it, though? As we see Peter Molnar now closing up some training. Oh, as we say that, look at that off of the circuit. Chris Barrow for Apex Tech Racing rejoins back on circuit alongside with Peter Molnar for a race clutch. He's able to hold on to the position at that point. Which are safe enough that there wasn't contact, which is the main concern. But now coming out of Oak Tree down this long back straight, they're side by side coming up the hill, up into the roller coaster section. Peter Molnar with the run is going to get the position, 5th place. Meanwhile, further in front, there's tussling as well between Apex Tech and Punto CL. And I think Jamie Conway actually got a position there.
5 places gained for Jamie Conway so far in this race. Jamie Conway finished 4th last week at Hockenheim and had a brilliant race, if I remember rightly. Brilliant start for him on a track that's very difficult to overtake anyway, particularly on lap 1. But the end of lap 1, Mauricio Guerrero leads here just ahead of Bence Nemethi. Not much to separate them at the moment. And Jamie Conway in 3rd place there, 5 places gained. He's just ahead of Chile driver Lucas Bacigalupo. Peter Molnar in 5th place there, did very well to avoid Chris Barrett, who ran off wide on the other end of the circuit. Peter Zuber, 3rd last week, is into 6th place, up 1 place. Chris Barrett, bad start for the Apex Tech driver, down 4 positions to 7th so far. Up 3 places, one of the biggest movers is Jan Burl there in the Impulse Racing machine. We've got Peter Zuber, who's now dropped back behind Chris Barrett. Coming into the Twisty Complex here as we come into turn 10 now. Down the hill into turn 11. Chris Zuber back down to 7th place. Barrett trying to make up places into 6th now. Bad start to the race for him from 3rd place to 6th. And back here we've also got Dennis Ruder. No, it's not Dennis Ruder. It's Ivo Lauscher on the rear, very close to the rear of Christian Alzel, who had a terrible start, dropped 5 places to 10th so far. We'll see if he can gain some positions as the race goes by, but he's got the pink liveried Lauscher Positively Racing car right behind. A group of 3 cars here. That is Alvaro Gutierrez Melendez just ahead. We saw the Adrian Motorsport machine go into the wall in the previous race at that corner we just went through. These 3 fairly close together. And at the end of lap 1, Jamie Conway still got Lucas Bacigalupo to worry about. He's not gaining much on Bence Nemethi in front. We'll see. It's a very long race. We're only 2 laps in. We'll see how it progresses.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to follow how this race moves on. It's still early days, of course, anything can happen. But what a start it has been for some of the drivers. Jamie Conway up 5 places, like we mentioned, currently in 3rd, correct drive from him. Also following Alvaro Gutierrez Melendez right in the middle of this big train of LMP2s. This battle could be one that rages on right from the start until the end, like we saw, especially the midfield of the Pro Division last time at Hockenheim was always kicking off, wasn't there? There was always some car within a second of one another in that little battle, and we saw it rage on, and then at times boil over, of course. I remember there was, I think, an incident involving Bowl and Zuber and Molnar, I think going into, was it Mobile 1 Curve at the first half of the race, but Hopefully we don't
remembered,
see
it was-
any of that.
Well remembered, it was between Bill and Zuba. Zuba got away with it a little better than Bill, but meanwhile further back we have got Eisler. Good qualifying performance, but the race trim setup doesn't seem to be on point as he's really under pressure from Lauscher behind. Lauscher in his debut race of the season today. Going to the fence, takes a look to the inside, and Eisler gives a little room, but it's not enough for Lauscher to get up the inside. Keeping the position at the moment is Eisler, and he has got the cars ahead of him to focus on, as well as the car attacking from behind, and he runs wide, coming through turn 3 there, and it looked like it was all done by himself. Just get a quick replay of that. It just seems that car is not hooked up right now. Yes, it was, just too quick going into, oh no, it was actually a move on the inside from Lauscher. He didn't see it coming, and it put him off track.
Yeah, that was very unfortunate there for Christoph Eisler, running off the circuit there. Rejoined safely though. That's the key thing, is that there wasn't any damage accrued to his car. That's the real big thing, as we see. Get another replay, and we can hopefully get back to live pictures. I'm not sure if you've got the same graphical glitch that I have at the moment, Alex, but hopefully that will get sorted out.
Yes, it's a little hiccup on the technical parts. To apologise for that. We'll get it back very, very shortly, I'm sure. However, we can still see the racing, so we'll report it via radio as much as we can. We are looking at Jamie Conway, who is gaining on Nemeth, and hopefully we get our pictures back before we see any move from Jamie Conway. Real close to the rear of Nemeth. It's less than a second as Quero, just to report on him, is pulling away from the second place race clutch machine. And Conway ever so close. He's also got Bacigalupo to worry about as well. They come through to complete another lap here at Virginia. Trying to get our pictures back. Do apologise, ladies and gentlemen. We got the racing back on screen. We're just not able to get the telemetry on screen at the moment. We'll repair that in due course. We are watching Jamie Conway at the moment. He is third place at the moment, hunting down second place. It's been a dream start to the race for him. 5 places gained, hunting down second place.
He also seems to be stuck on a different point to me, so it might just be an issue potentially on our timing software's end. But if we have the pictures, we can at least still talk you through everything that's going on. You mentioned Jamie Conway taking the fastest lap of the race so far and closing in on Mr. Mathy. As well out on the circuit, Rodrigo Lazowski going for a move potentially on Dennis Roder, and that actually getting through as well. Yeah, I'm definitely having some issues with timing, and I think you're having the same, aren't you, Alex?
Yeah, very similar for me. We can still see the racing on screen. Thankfully, we're just not able to report on the positions. It seems to be a global glitch going on, so it's not on our part. We are going to revert to the racing here. We've got Jamie Conway on the, Chris Barrett on the inside of Gutierrez. Well, no, it's not Gutierrez. It's a Whiskey actually, so overlapping him. It's a Whiskey who accidentally joined the AM server earlier, as we saw. We've also got Chris Barrett looking to get past. I think that might be Dennis Roder as well. Chris Barrett trying to make a few places back. Well down the order after a disappointing lap 1. Meanwhile at the front, Guerrero still out in front, still a battle raging on between Nemethi and Conway.
Yeah, so we're trying to see exactly what's going on. We can follow Prince Nemethi at the moment, who's got Jamie Conway right up behind. And as they come now down through the hog pen now, starting their, what is actually going to be their fourth lap, coming to the end of their fourth lap, starting their seventh lap of the race, my bad. It's Nemethi closing down, trying to close the gap to the leader as well. Don't forget, he's only 2 seconds up the road. Jamie Conway half a second back still at this current time. Left hook now. It's a great little track this, of course, to watch the drivers go through and try and negotiate. A little bit loose at the rear for some of these cars as well. Jamie Conway and Benson Nemethi and their fair share of oversteer, but of course excellent racing all the way through. And then further back, fighting between Dennis Roeder and Rodrigo Lazowski, but doesn't seem to be close enough yet to really focus on, so instead shifting back to this battle for second place. It's Nemethi is seemingly weathering the storm for the moment, trying to clear the gap to Jamie Conway as they come through the oak tree section now. Apologies again for the issues that we're facing. It seems to be out of our control at the moment. See if we can get you pictures back, or at least get you all of the timing data and everything on the side of the screen, because it doesn't look the same, doesn't feel the same without, of course. Benson Nemethi still weathering the storm from Jamie Conway, but Jamie is closing in. Seems to be having a good turn of pace. Wasn't able to get the qualifying lap that he hoped for the Jamie, but at the moment everything's going all right. Meanwhile, Peter Molnar for a race clutch, now closing in on Lucas Basigalupo for Punto Seal Racing. Two lovely liveried cars, both using red, white and blue in different varying amounts. You're thinking maybe they were cars of the same team but maybe different divisions, but like they are separate. And we might be able to see a very tasty fight between them. Cars are very close on circuit at the moment, are they, Alex, in this early phase, but nothing quite showing in terms of moves.
Yeah, no one making a do-or-die move. It's all very patient at the moment, a bit of a game of chess. We're 12 minutes into the race. Obviously you guys can't see any of the standings or timing telemetry. Unfortunately, there is an issue with our timing software. This seems to be a persistent issue for me and Ed for the time being. So we'll try and communicate as much as we can to you the standings. At the moment, the order is Mauricio Cuero in the lead with Bence Nemethi in second place. Jamie Conway in third place right behind Nemethi. Basigalupo's dropped back a little bit, but still fourth place, just ahead of Peter Molnar in fifth position. Peter Zuber, third place in Hockenheim a week ago, is in sixth place, just ahead of Jan Burl in seventh position, who's gained 4 places so far. Ivo Lauscher of Positively Racing in 8th position there. 9th position is Alvaro Gutierrez. 10th place is Chris Barrett, who's dropped 7 places so far. Not a good start to the race for him. Christian Alsler hasn't been a good start to the race for him either. 11th place for him. Rodrigo Lisawiski in 12th place, and Dennis Ruder in 13th position. And just looking at Nemethi, he's not losing too much from Cuero at the moment. Nowhere near biting distance, and he has got Jamie Conway, the orange Apex Tech Racing car, filling up his mirrors at the moment as he navigates fast, twisty section of Virginia here. And we've got the battle between Lauscher and Burl here, very, very close together. Lauscher has had a very promising start to the race, gaining 2 places since the start. Coming through the oak tree now. A good run on Jan Burl is what he needs coming out of this corner. Again, just to reiterate, guys, we haven't got the timing telemetry on display for you, as there is a technical glitch behind the scenes. We're both having the same issues. We'll try and get that back as soon as possible. In the meantime, we'll give you as much information as we can on the racing. This is the battle for 7th position, Lauscher versus Burl. Burl is ahead of us here. Actually a very good run through the final corner there for Jan Burl to break away a little bit from Lauscher in the 99 machine there. Didn't race last week, but looking for a good start to his season here this week.
Yeah, we're going to see how this continues. I can run you through the current order at the moment, because of course we don't have that on the left hand side of the screen, but the convenience is Mauricio Carrero, who currently leads for Punto CL Racing, ahead of this man Bence Nemethi. Race clutch just behind him. Coming through now is Jamie Conway for Apex Tech Racing. Luca Basia-Galupo for Punto CL Racing is 4th, ahead of 2 race clutch cars that are 5th and 6th. Peter Molnar and Peter Zuber both driving their 5th and 6th. 7th place goes to Jan Boll at the moment for Impulse Racing, ahead of Ivo Loebscher. Alvaro Gutierrez Melendez is 9th. Chris Barrett is 10th. Rodrigo Lazowski 11th. Dennis Roder 12th, or Dennis Roder, my mistake, in 12th place. And Christian Eisler, Punto CL Racing, and out the field in 13th place. But again, apologies for the issues we're facing. We're going to try and see if we can get them sorted, but if not, well, we'll do our very best to soldier on and provide you with all the entertainment, and these drivers are certainly giving us entertainment on circuit, aren't they? Nemethi and Conway having a bit of a cat and mouse game at the moment.
Yes, Conway dropping back a little bit in the last few laps or so, but these three not getting too far apart, and it might be similar to what we see in Formula 1 where undercuts are attempted. We are getting towards the phase of the race where drivers will come into the pits for a splash and dash of fuel. 17 minutes expired so far in this 1 hour race. In about 3 minutes time we'll start to see the pit stops. This is the top 3 we can see in our view here. Guerra at the front, Nemethi in 2nd and Conway in 3rd. As they come round to another lap here at Virginia International Raceway, and again everyone, I'm going to keep mentioning it just in case there's confused viewers new to the broadcast. In the last few moments or so, we are having technical difficulties with our standings telemetry. We can't seem to get the live screen showing. Our replays work, but our live screen is not working at the moment. It seems to be an issue beyond our control via the software we are using. However, we'll do our best to get it back and give you guys up-to-date telemetry as we usually do. In the meantime, we're just going to have to tell you who's who and tell you what's what. We are now watching Peter Molnar.
Peter Molnar, he's got cars close in front and close behind. Luca Basia-Galupo for Punto CL Racing just ahead of him. And just behind him, well, that's Peter Zuber. So what was once a two-way fight for 2nd place could soon become a 3-way fight as they make their way through Oak Tree now. And we come to Bence Nemethi, who's in his own little bubble, nice and safe up in front, shall we say, with a 5-second gap to 2nd place. This is 3rd. Peter Molnar for Race Clutch as they make their way up through the roller coaster now, down the hill. Definitely you can see why this area of the track is called a roller coaster, because it undulates, doesn't it? It's so much you sort of ride it all the way down. Can't throw your hands in the air though and start screaming in delight, because you'll probably end up screaming in fear as you barrel into a wall. Meanwhile, the battle's going on, and other drivers I think have made their way into the pits. Bence Nemethi, I think, coming in to take their stop. Well, it says they're into the pits, but I can still see them out on circuit. So I'm not sure what's going on in respect to that. Hopefully that's all. So I'm not sure if you see the same thing, Alex, or are you seeing cars currently in the pit lane?
I'm not seeing any cars in the pit lane at the moment. At the moment, our timing screen's not giving me much. It says Guerrero's in third place. He's not. He's in the lead at the moment. Jamie Conway just behind. So Benson.
Very strangely, what it could be is maybe our timing has got us for some reason. I think what it could be is that are we stuck in a replay and can't get out for some reason, because it says the drivers are close behind and coming into the pits, but we're not seeing our pictures. So maybe are we going to see other drivers make their way into the pits later or something? I'm not sure. In fact, we see Benson Mather come into the pits now.
Yes, we are. Guerrero and Conway have indeed pitted. Assumptions are correct. Bacigalupo stays out. Other drivers coming in the pits. Peter Zuber and Peter Molnar.
So I think we are stuck in a replay because my timing software said they pitted, but we were confused, and now they're coming into the pits. So what it could be is an issue with our timing software is when we went to a replay of an incident at the start of the race, I think it's got us stuck there. So now things we see on our timing software are a little bit back.
I believe so. We've just seen Bacigalupo head into the pits. That's the driver we've just seen pulling in there. Benson Nemethi cruises past. Mauricio Guerrero has ended up behind Nemethi following pit stops. So a swap of positions through the pit stops. A bit of an undercut or overcut, whichever it was, from Nemethi, and Guerrero is a bit hard to follow at the moment because we haven't got any telemetry to help us along here. We are very much going in a bit blind here. Jamie Conway has dropped back a bit from the top two. Guerrero has dropped into second place. Guerrero was in second place for much of the Hockenheim race last week, so something he's able to do is catch up with the front runner. But Nemethi, very good thus far. He'll be very pleased with the pit stop he's just undertaken. And into first he goes. A few seconds clear of Guerrero. He'll be head down for the next 20 minutes or so. Until the next pit stops, where you'll have to try and stay ahead.
So we'll try and get everything back in order. We're just trying to do every avenue we can to get things sorted out. But if that isn't the case, then we can soldier on without our pictures on the side. But we're good to try and get it up in working order, of course. We're currently following Benson Nemethi, who's doing a very good job at the front of the field. And our close fighting again. This is Molnar Peter trying to close in on Peter Zuber. So again, the two race clutch cars further down the order do very good, but there is still a race clutch car leading the way. So good evening so far for race clutch. They just need to bring it through. Approaching the halfway point of the race, we've seen drivers, like we mentioned, coming into the pits. That was at the 20-minute mark. And, well, Peter Molnar rather, closing in. It's very difficult to try and, for our sake as well, to see exactly what's going on, because we tend to use the timing pictures as much as you people watching at home use, but we'll soldier on. And I'm not sure what they're going to do, because they are teammates, I believe, aren't they? Molnar Peter and Peter Zuber.
Yes, they are. So team orders come into play. I'm not too sure, but two cars in very similar liveries but reversed colours. One is red leading blue, the other is blue leading red. We are watching Molnar behind Zuber here, the two Hungarian drivers of Race Clutch Racing. Going down the back straight here, and look at that, it is team orders. Zuber lets by Molnar. Zuber, however, is higher in the championship, so certainly a decision at play here where Molnar is quicker on the track, so they're trying to get him ahead and in the clear. He's behind Zuber, we've got Jan Burl and Ivo Laubscher gaining on the Hungarian driver. So Peter Zuber must be a little unconfident about his car right now. And letting by Mona being a tactical decision to keep him out of trouble. And Mona can work on catching up with Basia Glupo, who's only a little bit up the road from the Hungarian. Peter Zuber here can use the draft of his teammate ahead to try and get a faster lap time. It might be that he's lacking pace down the straight, or otherwise it might be grip in the corners.
Yeah, it is. It's all about drivers trying to make the lap time some different places. They're going quick in the corners, quick on the straights. Seeing what comes of it. Peter Zuber for race clutch. Closing in on Peter Molnar now, but also being very mindful to keep the others at bay. Jan Bol and Ivo Laubscher approaching rather quickly, it has to be said, doesn't it, for Impulse Racing and Positively Racing. And we've got some very weird things going on, because I think mine might be alright, but I'm not sure if yours is on your end, Alex. So we're going to try and see if we can get it all sorted. It might just be a bit temperamental, but let's cross it all is sorted and revert back to normal. Ivo Laubscher, though, he's been showing a good turn of pace so far, up 2 positions since the start. Jan Bol up 4 places since the beginning of the race. So the Impulse Racing driver currently in 7th position. Very good performance from him so far.
And we're back.
And we're back. We've got it. We've fixed it. It's there. It's sorted. Hooray!
It only took us 20 minutes. Not entirely sure what happened there, ladies and gentlemen. Huge apologies for that. We missed. Well, we didn't miss any of the race, but yeah, some key figures in the race we certainly were lacking there. But we're back in action, and it'll be more exciting than it ever was. Now we're watching with good stats the battle for 5th, or even 4th, should I say, with Basia Glupo just up ahead. But 5th place, Peter Molnar heads this battle. They're gaining in towards 4th place, and Peter Zuber very slow through the oak tree there. Jan Bill gains considerably through that corner, has broken away a little bit from Ivo Laubscher behind. Going down this back straight here, a big burst of slipstream as he gains on Peter Zuber. Coming up the back straight here, won't be enough to make a move. Going into the corner, much later on the brakes, but has to stay behind on this very narrow track that veers off to the left, going into the roller coaster section here, coming down the hill through the final corners here. Very good driving from Jan Bill so far. Coming out of this corner, will he be able to get a good run on the car ahead of Peter Zuber? Probably not close enough to make a move just yet. In fact, no, he will not be. So it might seem that Jan Bill, higher downforce setup potentially on the car as he brakes much later, which would suggest that what I've just said about downforce, and a loose rear end from Zuber in front. So Bill running high downforce, it seems. Zuber on lower downforce. Coming through the corner now, it just seems that Bill is a lot more confident through these twistier corners, but on the faster sections of the track, Zuber is breaking away from Bill. Feathers the throttle, coming out of turn 4 and through the turn 5 complex here, under the bridge, and look how much Zuber is pulling away once the hammer is down on that right pedal. Coming through the section here, now we approach the oak tree section, which Jan Bill might be able to gain considerably on, and look how much he gains through the corners. This is a game of opposites between these two drivers, where Jan Bill is just able to get through these corners so much quicker, but Zuber on this straight here, you can see, is pulling away. Bill will try desperately to stay in the slipstream here to stay within distance of Zuber, but it's going to make overtaking very difficult for the German driver. On board with Peter Zuber here, he's still got Molnar ahead to help him out, tow him along a little bit.
See, you've got your soaring at the steering wheel going through the roller coaster section. Just shows how on edge these drivers have their LMP2 set up to go quick around this circuit. You do need to have these cars set up right on a knife edge, don't you, to get any sort of pace out of them to be right at the top level like these drivers are. And, well, it's very, very close indeed on the second between these four. What a great battle we have to bring to you as we come now up to the half-hour point, and hopefully for the next half of the race, no more issues will plague us, and we'll be able to talk you through what is going to be a brilliant final 30 minutes of this Pro Class race. Peter Zuber for Race Clutch trying to hold off the charging cars behind of Jan Bull and Ivo Lobsha, just trying to allow as well Peter Molnar to have a gap in front and to try and see what he can manage.
Race Clutch tactics coming into play here, where they're going to let Molnar get away from the Impulse Racing machine. But as we're seeing from Jan Bull, he's getting close on this part of the lap, but then as he exits the Oak Tree corner, Zuber is breaking away. Is there much more than that Jan Bull can do? I'm not too sure, unless there's a mistake from Zuber. As we've seen, the rear end is very loose on that car. Might be that comes into play, but if he can keep well grounded, keep hold of the car, he might just about stay ahead of Bill when it comes to pace on straights. But Nemethi is in the pits for the halfway point and the second pit stop of the race, a little earlier than expected. The pit stops came 10 minutes ago, so Nemethi in the pits rather early. Interesting strategy at play here, not too sure, but Guerrero gets back into the lead with Jamie Conway third.
I think that's an interesting strategy. I think there must have been something that's gone on there, because Benson Nemethi gets going rather quickly, I have to say, so that was definitely not a scheduled pit stop. He'll have to be pitting again. These drivers all do need to pit once more as well. We expect to see them at the 40-minute mark to be safe till the end of the race. I think all of these drivers are meeting that target. We don't know exactly when they came into pits due to our little technical hiccup, but we'll be able to follow through all of the action regardless. So like you mentioned, the race clutch tactics could be coming into effect, because the gap is about 1 second between Peter Molnar and Peter Zuber as they make their way into the Oak Tree section now. Getting good exits are paramount here because of this long back straightaway. As they make their way down and then up and then down a bit and then up again before they get onto the roller coaster section. In fact, no, they go down again and then they start to rise up once more before a deep plunge through the roller coaster section. I love seeing the cars going through here. It's such a good bit of circuit. You can't see too much overtaking, too much side-by-side action through there, just because of the nature of the circuit, and then coming through Hogpen as well, getting the run through is paramount. We saw drivers in the AM race, didn't we, get mistakes through there? Was it Fernandez Montes that we saw have a big moment at the end of the race, and then also, I think, was it Jacob Money that we saw at the earlier phase of the race get a mistake? And a mistake in the background for Ivo Lobsha.
And we'll take a replay of that. Ivo Lobsha, who's right on the back of that train. Replay's working, thankfully. Coming into the corner, the back end gives way and slams on the brakes to stop the car going out onto the grass anymore. Recovers it, but has dropped a fair few seconds. Still in the same position of 7th place for Ivo Lobsha. And I was very, very, very tentative to press the live button there, but it worked safe and sound. But not a safe and sound lap here for Lobsha. In 7th still, as we mentioned, but dropped a fair way back from Jan Bull ahead. And there's the gaps now, 7 seconds apart. And less than 2 seconds apart still between 4th, 5th and 6th. As Jan Bull still tries, despite lacking the straight line speed from the fellow Dallara driver in front. He's not able to make a way past. Catching is one thing, passing is another. It certainly is the case between these two. But the previous lap, Ed describing the nature of this track, up, down, up, down. You definitely want to watch what you eat before driving this circuit. It is absolutely picturesque, but a bumpy ride for the drivers certainly. But someone who hasn't had much of a bumpy ride so far, all with the exception of the last pit stop, And it is Mauricio Cuero, and what we might have seen actually with Nemethi jumping in front on the last pit stops quite easily from Cuero has got to be said, even though there's quite a big gap before the pit stops. It might have purely been that Nemethi had taken on less fuel, therefore less time in the pit lane.
That could be the case. However, don't forget, Nemethi is due to pit once more. Of course, that will be a shorter stop, and then taking half as much fuel compared to everybody else. Expect to see him, is he pitted at the 30-minute mark? He's probably pit in at the 50-minute mark later on in this race. But we'll focus on the pit stop battles when it gets closer to time, perhaps. As we see again, Peter Zuber, he's closing in actually on Peter Molnar now. So maybe we could see a change of position again between the two race clutch cars as we come up to the pit stop phases.
Just over 4 minutes to go until we reach that point. And Zuber seems to have found a little bit of a kick in that car in the last few moments or so. But actually, we have got another turntable in Jamie Conway, who's in the pits right now. This is very interesting strategies we're seeing from the pro drivers. Maybe they were watching the AM race and trying to pick up a little trick or two, trying to figure out with their virtual strategists something different. And there's a very short stop indeed for Jamie Conway. They don't take on tyres, they just take on fuel in this race because it's such a short race. The tyres can last an hour, maybe more even. And Jamie Conway rejoins. He's behind Nemethi, locked up going into turn 1 there. But the two separated just as much as they were before Nemethi came into the pits. Maybe even actually a smaller gap between them. So this will be interesting to see what these two are up to. They presume they're going to have to take on more fuel before the end of the race. But Mauricio Cuero just sticking to the strategy as what we've seen most of the race, most of the night long. In fact, we saw it in the AM category as well earlier on. He will pit in about 3 minutes' time, will Mauricio Cuero. He's on course for another win if that's the case, because Conway and Nemethi will have to pit as well. Again, very interesting strategies from them. But now Mauricio Cuero comes into the pits. Shooting myself in the foot a little bit there, but 37 minutes expired, and we did...
I don't know if that'd be enough.
Yeah, this is really strange, and we're going to have to speak to these drivers after the race to see what they were thinking. Bacigalupo carries on. Jan Burl is in the pits, but Peter Molnar and Peter Zuber carry on. Ivo Lauscher's in the pits. Cuero's still in the pits there, taking on fuel. Bence Nemethi screams past. Mauricio Cuero, who comes out the pits now, is still ahead of Jamie Conway, who dropped back a little bit in the last lap or so. Oh, it's Cuero getting a bit squirrely coming through turn 1 there. There's a little bit of a gap behind Nemethi now. 2-second gap behind Nemethi. Jan Burl leaves the pits. Lauscher leaves the pits.
I'm really quite confused because we didn't really see any of this from the AM class, did we? We didn't see any drivers seemingly struggling for fuel at the end. None of this pit stop drama. So this is very weird indeed, and drivers could be finding themselves losing out come the end of the race. And other drivers, people like Mauricio Cuero, could have actually had a masterstroke coming in at the 30-minute mark, realizing that not many drivers, or very few, or if any drivers, will be able to make it on a 2-stop strategy. Instead, just opting to take the 3 at different intervals.
Well, it certainly remains to be seen. We've got a minute until that sort of milestone, that safety barrier that we were calling out in the AM category, which most adhere to. Lucas Bacigalupo stays out, and he'll tick over to 40 minutes while on this lap, which means he could be safe for only one more stop, which would be his second stop. Peter Molnar and Peter Zuber carry on. This is very strange tactics, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the top 3 are all safe.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's about what happens further down the field as well, which is the real interesting part. Benson Mathy did pit very early on, pitted on lap 19, so expect to see events coming in shortly, maybe in about.
And we've had a swap of positions between Peter Zuber. Sorry to interrupt there, Ed. Yeah, Peter Zuber and Peter Mona have swapped positions. We'll just get a quick replay of that. And it was Mona just slowing down to let by Peter Zuber.
Definite tactical tactical play going on there, but I'm not sure why they need. I don't think that they're vulnerable from anyone else, so they could probably fight between the pair of them. I'm just having a look at what the drivers do expect. Maybe they're feeling maybe a bit of pressure from Bence, potentially, depending on how short the pit stop is for the other race clutch Hungarian driver. But they're all teammates. They don't need to worry about losing out to people like Bence because they're in the same team. Second, third, and fourth, they could all just tussle it out with one another.
Exactly. Bacigalupo stays out for another lap. So certainly only one stop remaining for Bacigalupo, the same as others. Zuber and Mona come in the pits. Now, something I was wondering, now I've come off the back of doing the Indy 500 yesterday, so I'm wondering if they're trying to save fuel by drafting each other. That's a conspiracy I'm going to throw out there in the mix. However, Nemeth passes by, Conway passes by. Mauricio Guerrero is quite far down. Something's happened to him. Mauricio Guerrero has gone off the track somewhere on the previous lap. It was the previous lap, a lap ago into turn 1. We apologise for miss that, but here it is. Just goes straight on onto the grass and just gets the car stopped before hitting the barriers. But Mauricio Guerrero, what was looking like, well, what was a very professional drive last week at Hockenheim, it's gone to bits in this race at the moment. He's down in 4th place at the moment, potential 3rd. It's pending what Bacigalupo does and pending what happens with these pit stops. It's been a very, very below par race for Guerrero if Hockenheim was anything to go by. Strange indeed.
It's one of these moments where as commentators it's difficult to be lost for words because of the strategy, isn't it? We're not entirely sure exactly how things pan out, but we can be certain of one thing, isn't it? It's going to be very entertaining in the final 5 minutes when it all starts to come together and coalesce, and Lucas Bacigalupo comes into the pits from the lead of the race on lap 26. So now as it takes over to lap 27, 42 minutes gone is definitely safe. Meanwhile, Benson Mathy stays out, takes the lead of the race, but we do expect to see that race clutch car coming on into the pits. As well do we expect potentially to see Jamie Conway due to his early pit stop at the around about, I think it was a 38-minute mark for Jamie Conway.
Bacigalupo leaves the pits ahead of his teammate Mauricio Guerrero, so Bacigalupo stays in the top 3. Guerrero drops to 4th with the off he had 2 laps ago. So Bacigalupo, certainly the one we got to keep an eye on at the moment. Certainly will have no more stops to take unless he's underfueled, but we'll find that in due course. We've got to keep a sharp eye on these 3 of Nemeth, Conway and Guerrero. Although Guerrero's dropped out of contention with these 2 in terms of on-track battling and close gaps. I mean, 16 seconds down now is Guerrero, but another stop pending is our prediction. I'm sure we'll find out soon enough, as we have got just shy of 17 minutes to go in this session. Nemeth leads. Conway is second, not too far behind, 4 seconds behind. 15 seconds back on the back straight there is Lucas Bacigalupo, who has just come out of the pits. His teammate behind of Panto CL Racing, Mauricio Guerrero. The 2 Hungarian teammates still nose to tail. Peter Molnar back ahead of Peter Zuber. Jan Bill still battling with Ivo Lauscher. They have dropped back a little bit from the 2 Hungarian drivers. Chris Barrett, who had a good qualifying session, started third, dropped down to 9th place. It hasn't been the best of races for him. Very good qualifying trim on the car, but the race trim just hasn't been all there today. But 9th at the moment, still picking up some very good points. 10th, Alvaro Gutierrez Melendez in 10th position for Adrian Motorsports. Rodrigo Lisawiski in 11th place. Christian Alsler in 12th, and Dennis Ruder in 13th position.
I'm still excited about what could potentially happen with this leader, the one we're watching now, Benson Mathy. Currently, is expected to take a pit stop. Has around about 15 seconds to Lucas Pasigalupo, who we expect to potentially take the lead of the race. Jamie Conway in 2nd place, we know as well, is likely to make a pit. And Jamie Conway could be taking a very short stop indeed. So it all comes down to how short the splashes and the dashes are for the drivers we expect to pit once more. That's what it really comes down to, isn't it? Other drivers as well close on circuit, likes of Molnar and Zuber, 5th and 6th, would expect to see them probably in fights, as well as Ivo Lobscher and I think Jan Bol, who are also, look at this, nose to tail as they go through the roller coaster section now, cascading down through the long left-hander, coming into the right-hander final corner. Pen on the start finish straight. Doesn't seem to me that Ivo Lobscher's car was too nailed down compared to Jan Bol, so Jan is able to stay ahead for another lap. Close there, isn't it?
Absolutely. Lauscher's impressed me today. He's been real close, as is Jan Bull. It would have been nice to have seen Jan Bull still up against the 2 race clutch drivers, but the pit stops have dispersed them a little bit. However, we have got a very exciting 15 minutes upcoming, as we do believe there are still pit stops at play. Very interesting change of strategies that from what we saw in the AM category, where they were just bringing their fuel tanks to the end and pitting it. They all came at about every 20-minute interval in the previous race. We are seeing something slightly different today. Will it pay off? We'll see. In the meantime, Ben Snamethi comes into the pits for what will be his 3rd stop. Jamie Conway stays out. We'll see what Bacigalupo does, but Snamethi will surrender the lead to Conway. Conway leads his 1st lap of the race.
How long is this pit stop going to be? That's the key thing, isn't it? We see they're going past Lucas Bacigalupo, so he's not going to rejoin in the lead of the race. Here's Benson, he's dropping back again. Comes out of the pits in potentially, I think, 6th place, as you see the 2 race clutch cars go past. So race clutch hold 4th, 5th and 6th for the moment. What can Benz do though? Not too far back, could still foreseeably gain some places till the end of the race. And in the background, Ivo Lobscher is going for it, isn't he? On side by side with Jan Bull. Impulse Racing car, the white, black and blue car just staying in front for now. But look again, it's going to be 2 abreast as they make their way through the left hook into the right-hander and start onto the snake section. I think Ivo Lobscher was just able to get his car in front in time, but this is very close. He's not giving up, is he? Look at this. Ivo Lobscher, he's going to bring it to one. He's going to force the issue, sweeping around the outside. Great overtake there from Ivo Lobscher.
Great battle as well, but a brilliant overtake. Probably my overtake of the evening. Ivo Lobscher moves into 7th place. Jan Bill's not going to give it up though. He's going to go for an equally good move. I'm predicting here. Onto the back straight we go, and actually Lobscher had a very good run out of the oak tree. Brilliant side by side action. Very fair between the 2 as well, giving each other racing room. But while that carries on and endures, Jamie Conway's in the pits. Bacigalupo stays out with Mauricio Cuero just behind him, who stays out as well. Jamie Conway's in the pits. Peter Molnar exits the final corner past the pit lane and cruises past Jamie Conway, who's in the pits. Conway leaves his stall now and he falls behind Nemethi again. And out onto the track, and he might lose the position to Laubscher as well. Laubscher's in front, and Jan Bill might be able to get past Jamie Conway. He just about hangs on to it, coming out of turn 1 here. But Laubscher, a car between him and Bill is certainly what he needed. But Jamie Conway, certainly not what he needed. He's lost the gap between him and Nemethi, and he's lost an additional position in the process, and an extra pit stop as well. But at the front, Bacigalupo's back in the lead. And he might see Guerrero peel off into the pits as well in the next lap or so, if history tells us the same. So let's see what happens at the end of this lap. So from what we saw at the start of the race, it's been a very shuffled order in the standings right now. Bacigalupo leads with Mauricio Guerrero in second, Molnar third with Zuber in fourth, Nemethi, the third race clutch car leading a lot of the race, is now fifth. Ivo Laubscher in sixth, 4 places gained, the most of anyone thus far. Jamie Conway seventh, Jan Burl in eighth. Now let's keep an eye on Mauricio Guerrero coming around this final corner. Doesn't peel off into the pits. It's got another lap in the tank with 9 minutes to go. But Bacigalupo, his teammate, leads the way. Bacigalupo last week finished 11th. He was running very high up in the order. He was running 6th for a lot of the race last week at Hockenheim. An instant dropped him down the order. 11th place. It's certainly looking good for him right now. We know he can make it to the end on fuel. We presume he can make it to the end on fuel. Touch wood. Commentator's curse is not going to happen today. But let's see what happens. There's other drivers in the pits. Jan Burl was in the pits.
Yeah, Jan Burl coming into the pits, and from what was going to be a great fight potentially with himself and Ivo Laubscher, pulls into the pits. But maybe Ivo also has to come into the pits. Came on lap 23. I'm not sure if that could be enough till the end of the race. So we could see this fight erupt all over again. It all depends on what they're able to do with their own little bit of clear air. Ivo Laubscher, they've been able to pull out a big gap already compared to Jamie Conway. And we were saying, oh, Jamie could be on a charge and trying to get through on Evo, but I'm not sure if he'll have the pace to do that, because what a charge we're seeing from the Swiss driver there for Positively Racing. Like you mentioned, up 4 places into 6th place at the moment. Can he hold on? I think we might be seeing him coming to the pits in a couple laps time, I reckon.
Looking at Bacigalupo, back marker ahead. I believe that is Dennis Ruder. Makes his way past fairly easy. Mauricio Guerrero stays out as well, gaining on Bacigalupo. 8 minutes to go. Can Guerrero get it to the end on this tank of fuel? We'll see at the end of this next lap. If he gets another lap in it, that is. Peter Molnar and Zuber not going to battle too much, I presume. They have got Nemethi not too far behind them. Zuber being highest in the championship coming into today. Might he get 3rd place off of Peter Molnar? There are going to be no team orders at play here. We'll find out. There's plenty to find out in this race. Ivo Laubscher stays out for another lap, clear of Jamie Conway at the moment, which surprises me, as Jamie Conway was running 2nd for much of the race. A storming opening lap from Jamie Conway earlier on. But 7th at the moment.
This is very entertaining indeed, isn't it? I can't wait to see how this fight goes through, especially as well between these 2 race clutch cars. Peter Molnar ahead of Peter Zuber, but well, I've seen these 2 change position once, seen them change again. Now we're going to see them change a 3rd time, this time with the gloves firmly off and no holds barred.
We'll find out. It's going to be very interesting, and Laubscher has gained considerably on Nemethi in the last few moments or so. There was an off-track look at Nemethi. Oh, and he got it onto the grass, all loose, coming into the oak tree, couldn't save it. Avoids the wall? Yes, avoids the wall. A little bit of rally action. I'm a big fan of rallying, if you know me well, and that was very impressive sliding we saw there from Nemethi, but loses a lot of time from his teammates. and lost a lot of time to Laubscher, but now Laubscher has come into the pits. So this will bring the gap between him and Jan Bill back close together. And that promotes Jamie Conway up to 6th place. That was a very, very quick stop indeed. Only 6 minutes remaining. We'll rejoin the track. Gutierrez is by there. Jan Bill is a lot further back, so Laubscher has cleared his rival through much of the race. Rejoins the track in 8th place, but not much time to go. Quero has stayed out. How has he saved this much fuel, Ed?
I have no idea. We'll have to ask him after the race, won't we?
Yeah.
If he's able to take it over till the end of the race, that will be a brilliant drive from Mauricio Quero for Punto CL Racing that could make it a 2 cars on the top step of the podium. But which way are they going to be around? Because the gap is now under 1 second as they make their way through the roller coaster section once more. Mauricio Quero, he has to try and do what he can to save the fuel, but also you can see the race victory. His teammate, of course, will maybe not go full out attack, but still, if he's got the chance to go for it, you know he will. Anyone would. Any driver who's worth their salt would go for it.
Yes. Yeah, what team orders are going to come into play? Quero coming out of Hockenheim as the race winner and ultimately the championship leader. He's got the race lead in his sights there. Bacigalupo just ahead of him with 4 minutes now. It's just ticked over now. 4 minutes to go. 1.1 seconds between them. The 2 teammates, they're in the clear. But is Quero going to have to back off a little bit to save fuel? We have seen him out on the track for quite a long time now, since his last pit stop. A very, very long stint indeed for Quero. Can he keep it going? Makes it to the line this time by and stays around for another lap. It might be, in fact, no. I'll take myself back on that. There will be another 2 laps remaining after this one. We'll see what Quero has to do. I mean, it's a bit hard, given that they've got to take on fuel rather than tyres. It's a bit hard to predict an overcut from Quero here. He'll have to take on a lot less fuel anyway, so it'll be literally a splash and dash. Talking 2 seconds in the pit stall to take on fuel, which means he'll spend less time in the stall than the Methy would. So he might end up out in front, but he'll still drop him down to 5th. 4th even, should I say. And here we go. Quero does come into the pits. So he could not make it to the end with 3 minutes to go. Quero's in the pits. There will be not much to take on in terms of fuel. The Methy is coming through the roller coaster now. Molnar passes Quero. Zuber passes Quero. He's still in the pits. The Methy is on the front straight. Quero hasn't left the pits yet. The Methy passes by, as does Jamie Conway, who's gaining considerably on the Methy. Quero's still in the pits. Very long pit stop for him. Maybe he took on more fuel accidentally than he was meant to. But down to 6th place for the coming into tonight championship leader and the winner of last week. 6th place for him, a strategy that has not paid off.
No, it certainly hasn't. Drivers that have had to take extra pit stops are really suffering out. And it's like we mentioned, these 3 that will lead the way potentially till the end of the race. Luca Bacigalupo, Peter Molnar and Peter Zuber, but which way will it be around for those bottom 2 steps of the podium? Because look at how close 2 race clutch, 2 Peters are at the moment, right up against one another as they come out of the oak tree section now. And well, Zuber is very close behind Molnar at the moment, going to the inside now. Molnar, he knows that there's no sense fighting it. The slipstream is so strong going onto this section. I think lifts out of it. Doesn't want to test it too much. Instead slots in behind as they come through the roller coaster section now for what might be the second to last time, depending on where our leaders are. I think Lucas Bacigalupo comes across the line now and starts the final lap of the race.
He does, and I wouldn't say a stroke of genius in the strategy, because we saw much the same from the AM category. So Bacigalupo just sticking to the basics and might get a race win here. Let's keep an eye on the battle between the Methy and Conway also. It was fairly close not too long ago. And And there is still a battle erupting for second and third. The race clutch cars on the podium. They probably didn't expect this at the beginning of the race. Running wide in the background there, I think was Lisawiski then. No one to worry about. But this man, sometimes doing the basics is all you need to do. Lucas Bacigalupo leads for what will be the final lap here at Virginia International Raceway. Will pass the famous oak tree for the final time in this round of the season. We have got round 3 coming up in 3 weeks' time, which will be at Spa-Francorchamps, one of the all-time greatest circuits, on June the 13th. Tune in to Simracersworld TV to watch that round as it pays out. But in the meantime, this is Lucas Bacigalupo. He'll be our race winner if he can get through the final corner here. I say that for reasons, if you saw the race earlier on, he does indeed. Bacigalupo wins round 2 of the LMP2 Championship, hosted by Apex Technologies, sponsored by TPI Aerospace. A second win for Punto CL Racing. Brilliant driving from Lucas there. Peter Zuber will come across the line. 2 podiums in a row for him in the race clutch machine. He takes second ahead of his teammate. A great battle between them two throughout the race. Peter Molnar takes third place. And another teammate of Race Clutch Racing, fourth place for Bence Nemethi, finishing just ahead of Jamie Conway. Mauricio Cuero, it didn't pay off for him. The risking strategy didn't pay off. He finishes 6th after finishing 1st in round 1 a week ago. Chris Barrett, a good recovery towards the end there, will finish 7th. Ivo Laubscher putting in one of the moves of the night earlier on Jan Burl. He comes through in 8th place. Alvaro Gutierrez in 9th position, just ahead of Jan Burl. Christian Asler, a difficult night for him, still yet to finish this race, will be 11th. Rodrigo Lisawiski will finish 12th. 13th will be Dennis Ruder. 13th will be Dennis Ruder. And there are our runners. But our race winner was Bacigalupo. Well, what an interesting race indeed, Ed.
Interesting is certainly a word for it, isn't it? I'm very happy that we were able to have these races separately so we could appreciate all of their differences, can't we? They were both measured in different ways, and this pro class race has had so much excitement, especially right at the end. Difference in strategy really coming through, but it was the drivers that were able to make just the 2 stops that really worked out for them. Lucas Bacigalupo, Peter Zuber and Peter Molnar all able to look after the fuel, and that was the real difference maker come the end of the race. Especially exciting as well to see a change of second place right at the end, was it, between Molnar and Zuber. But, well, you can see the standings now. Lucas Bacigalupo is your race winner for the pro race of this second round of the Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship here at Virginia International Raceway. Peter Zuber comes home in second place for, well, the first of 3 race clutch cars. Peter Molnar, my mistake, is third place ahead of Bence Nemethi, rounding out the 3 race clutch cars. Very good evening from them, it has to be said. Great team effort. Meanwhile, Jamie Conway comes home in 5th place ahead of Mauricio Cuero in 6th. Chris Barrett is 7th for Apex Tech Racing. Exciting drive from Chris. Ivo Laubscher as well had another exciting battle, wasn't it, between himself and Jan Bol. One out in that occasion, coming home in 9th of Alvaro Gutierrez. Then we see Jan Bol in 10th, of Christian Eisler, Rodrigo Lazowski, and Dennis Ruder coming home at the end of the race. That rounds out the action, and now we can look forward to the next race, but also look forward to having a chat with a couple of the drivers that have come into the interview waiting room. Which one would you like to have a word? Which should we have a word with first? I think I can see Molnar Peter and Peter Zuber.
How about both? They're both in an intense battle. Let's bring them both in.
So we've brought in Molnar Peter, but you're not going to be alone in this because we're going to bring in your teammate Molnar, and it was a very exciting race from the pair of you. Maybe a little bit of team orders here or there. Just talk us through how it was like managing the fuel to make sure it was 2 stops?
Yeah, first we didn't really know what strategy will be the fastest, but during the race we decided to save with Peter, and at the end I didn't really have enough, so that's why you could see that he managed to overtake me, because I had to save a bit. So that was the cause of the overtake.
And was it a matter of just different points of the track where you're saving? Because we both saw that the pair of you pitted together on lap 25. Was it just your car was guzzling the fuel a little bit more?
I think it was because I spent more time in front and not in slipstream, and I think that's what caused the fuel difference.
Yeah, it was a bit of a late notice, actually, that it's relatively easy to make it 12 hours, but you still need to save just a little. I think Peter just kind of forget about it.
It is all about trying to save that little bit. It's thin margins that separate you, and especially at the end of the race. What was it like just trying to drive together as a team as well to get that good result? Because, well, 3 cars in the top 4 is no mean feat.
Yeah, it felt great to finish this high up, especially with the limited practice time that we got. But yeah, hopefully we can continue this good streak in the next race.
Yeah, absolutely. The next race is at the Spa Grand Prix circuit, a night into day race, I believe, racing at dawn. That's going to be one. Are you looking forward to?
Yes, I won Spa last season, so hopefully I can manage to win it again. But there is some strong guys, especially my teammates, so we will see. I hope it will be a good race.
Absolutely, we'll definitely look forward to that. And as for you, Peter, what are your Zuba? It's difficult when you two Peters, but Zuba, what's your hopes going into the race at Spa?
Same thing as for Peter. That's going to be quite a bit stronger for us. In general, this is the track where we didn't really have much practice done, as Peter mentioned already. Spa, we have plenty of practice on, and we think we have strong pace. Strategy-wise, once again, we gotta stress that it's really important, and also Peter has good experience making this strategy work, and probably it's going to be the strategy again that's going to count there, besides road pace, obviously.
Yeah, that is definitely going to be key, is just trying to work out the strategy together. It's back to the usual affair of a 2-hour race, so we'll hope to see you all for the whole 2 hours and see what you can both manage at the end. Thank you very much to the pair of you for joining us, and congratulations on both getting onto the podium.
Thank you guys, thanks for the broadcast.
Thank you. Gonna be exciting to watch it back.
Yeah.
Alright, yeah, see you guys next time. Hopefully here as well for round 3.
Yes, absolutely. You can bet on me and Alex being in the comms box for that one. We'll really look forward to it.
Bye.
So, Alex, that was Peter Zuba and Peter Moll. Very difficult when you try to talk to drivers. Say, oh, Peter, how was that? When they both got the same first name. But we got through that just about all right. And like you said, looking forward to Spa GP. That's going to be very entertaining. But it's a little ways off, isn't it? The 13th of June, so a little while until we can see the cars out on action again.
Yeah, I'm going to miss this. It's a long gap, but it's plenty of time. We did meet one of the Peters mentioning that they didn't have much of a turnaround between Hockenheim last week and Virginia this week to get some practice in, which is kind of important, you know. Only 8 days turnaround to get a setup prepared for this, granted, very difficult track. But Spa next week, they've got plenty of time to prepare. A night to day transition, which is going to be interesting. Another 2-hour race, which means they'll have to work on tyre stops, fuel stops, all of that. Strategies again. The strategy is probably a little more conventional, I would say, for the 2-hour race coming up next. But who knows, we might get a tear up of the rule book, as it were, like we did this week, and we might see some people risking a thing or two next week. You know, tyre changes on a different stop, for example. Not too sure. But yeah, that was a very, very thrilling night. The AM race, we didn't really have much time to reflect on it earlier on, but the AM race certainly was an exciting one with drama early on, and then towards the end it was just a case of drivers pushing really, really hard to get it up a few positions. There was heavy drama on the final lap for Montez.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, it was. Wait a second, wasn't it from the AM class race? I'm trying to remember. It was it? I think it was actually Felipe Riquelme, another Chilean driver who took the race victory that time in the AM race. So 2 Chileans have been very well. Lucas Garcia-Galupo, don't forget, won the pro class race. Great from him. And then it was 2 Germans, wasn't it? Second and third, Justin Young and Christopher Stahl in the AM class. So plenty of entertainment this evening at Virginia. And well, I'll leave you with the final words before we have to go, and we'll see you all in a few weeks' time at Spa.
Absolutely. So that has been round 2 of the championship. Thank you to Apex Technologies for hosting this championship and tonight's race. A huge thank you to TPI Aerospace for sponsoring tonight's race, and from us at Simracersworld TV, we have been bringing this race to you via the live streams. Thank you for watching, whether you've been watching on Facebook, YouTube or Twitch. Do subscribe to the channels to catch weekly multiple races on the channel, both from our own series and other series around the world. I've been Alex Everitt, Ed May alongside me. This has been the Virginia International Raceway round 2. We'll see you in 3 weeks' time on the 13th of June at Spa-Francorchamps. Thank you for watching.